Hey everyone, what's going on? Thank you so much for tuning into the live stream, whether you're watching live or whether you're watching after the fact. I'm joined firstly by my buddy Jason from Jason the Old Millennial. So yeah, how you doing, man?
Doing good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing great. Yeah, thanks for joining, Jason. I think we're also expecting D.Movieman to join us tonight, but it's not here right now, so we'll have to just wait and see. But yeah, I had this idea kind of to put it together because, me and Jason's been on like a couple of live streams together over the last couple of weeks. At times I've been feeling Christmassy, as I was saying to Jason, kind of off camera, and at times I haven't. What about you, Jason? Have you been kind of getting in the Christmas spirit?
Yeah, I listen to Christmas music quite a bit. Once it's December, I have Spotify on my Christmas list, and I've been buying some Christmas vinyl. I have Charlie Brown Christmas behind me.
Nice.
And I got some other vinyl just recently. So I'm watching Christmas stuff, movies and specials and stuff. Yeah. I always love getting to the Christmas mood once we get to December.
Right, yeah, definitely. And I know recently we've both watched Guardians of the Galaxy Christmas special as well.
Yeah.
Which was awesome. So yeah, man, I'm digging the vinyl in the background, by the way, because I could see the outline of a Christmas tree. That's all I can see from me.
Yeah.
I can't say anything else, but yeah, man, awesome to hear that you're in the Christmas mood and you kind of been listening to Christmas songs on Spotify and stuff as well. You said, do you have a favorite Christmas song?
Man, there's so many good ones. Lately, I said that Mary Did You Know is maybe my favorite at the moment. Such a great, not only like vocally, but lyrically, it's so great, talking about Jesus as a baby and kind of foreshadowing, him, saving the world, and stuff. And so
right.
I really love it in a spiritual context as well. And Pentatonics has one of the best versions I've ever heard. I highly recommend listening to Pentatonics sing the song.
I've never heard that version.
Oh, it's so good.
Yeah, I've never heard it. I know the song, but I've never heard that version before, so that's a new one to me. I've just seen in the commentary D saying, "Hey, Mike, can't wait to join, but I don't have a link." So I think I sent it to D on WhatsApp, but if not, D, if you're watching, I've just sent it on Facebook. So hopefully you've got the link. So yeah, Jason's got a favorite Christmas song. For me, I don't know. Like I think my all-time favorite song is probably Chris Rea, "Driving Home for Christmas." I don't know why.
Song I've never heard of. I've heard you talk about it.
I'm surprised you've never heard of this one, unless it's just in like a more English known one. I don't know.
Yeah, I've heard you say that, and I'm like, what the heck is Driving Home for Christmas?
Right. Well, I went over to my mum's house earlier, and we were lecturing, like, they had like top 10 Christmas song countdown kind of thing on, and Leona Lewis came on before More Sleep, and I was like, oh yeah, I remember this song. This is a bit of a jingle, yeah.
Oh, maybe I know it. I just don't recognize I have to, I guess, listen. Maybe I'll recognize it.
I would love to play for you like right now, but because of copyright, I can't.
Right.
Yeah. I'll ask D when D gets on the stream. I'll ask him if he knows the song, because unless it's just me, I don't know. But speaking of D, I think we've got him right here. Hey,
what's going on?
A lot of blue.
Yes. Plenty of blue, yes.
Hey D, how are you?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Yeah, doing great. And gotta say, I love the ugly Christmas sweater that won the contest as well.
Yes. Thank you so much for helping me with the decision, because I was struggling a little bit. I had to get the right one, and I think the suspenders really set it off, so it worked out.
Yeah, so like I know when you messaged me about what Christmas jumper should you have on, I was like, they all look ugly. It's the whole point. Right. But like two of them were like just like kind of Christmas trees, and I was like, you've got to go for one that stands out,
Exactly.
And the blue, the suspenders, man, I was like, what is that? Yeah. So did you get a prize for winning that contest or anything, by the way?
Well, one of the prizes actually is right here. You guys can see that ugly sweater champion. And then I got like an entire like roll of I think it's at Haribo, the gummy bears, and then I got like some peppermints, a cup, and a couple other things. So yeah, really nice prize for the most part.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that's awesome. And speaking of Haribo, very quickly, I know Jason in his kind of package from Adam from What the Gym got some Haribo. Is that available in the US to buy in general or not?
Oh yeah, for us it's just a general thing from what I've seen.
Okay.
It's the first time I had it.
Really?
Yeah, I think so. I don't remember.
Oh wow. Okay. Yeah.
I thought it was an English thing. I didn't know what it was.
So I thought it was an English thing as well. So when Dee just mentioned it, I was like, oh
Okay.
wow, they must have imported that.
Yeah. Now I don't know if they've always been around because I didn't grow up with those specific gummy bears. But as far as like availability, like even at the where I work, we have like a little bookstore where you can like purchase them. So I guess they've become maybe more widespread over the years.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. Yeah, I mean, it's a massive like sweets brand over here. So I'm like, you guys have everything. So I was like, you don't have Haribo?
Right.
So Dee, just before you joined us live, I was asking Jason, do you have a favorite Christmas song?
Ooh, yes. Probably This Christmas by Donny Hathaway or the Christmas song by Nat King Cole. Both of those always put me like in the, I don't know, like in the Christmas space and vibe and all of that. One is a little more upbeat and one is a little more, I wouldn't say somber, but it's a little more kind of like to me, this Christmas is kind of like we're out shopping or we're out, walking about and looking at lights. And then the Christmas song with Nat King Cole, that's kind of like curling up in front of the fireplace and it's snowing outside, hot chocolate. So kind of the two different vibes as far as Christmas. So yeah, those are probably my two favorites.
Yeah, I've heard the Nat King Cole song, so I definitely agree about like kind of snuggled near a fireplace, kind of like a cozy song. Have you heard the song Chris Rea Driving Home for Christmas, or is it just me?
No, I haven't heard that. It sounds interesting.
Good, I'm not the only one.
Because I was saying to Jason, that's my favorite Christmas song, but no one seems to have heard of it.
Okay, well, I'll go listen. I have to go listen to it so I can get on board.
Right. I was saying to Jason, I'd love to play it for you guys now, but copyright.
Right.
Yeah, that's not happening.
You can sing, maybe.
Right. Nah, I'm not singing. Definitely not. No, you guys will get a bit of singing in the Christmas special with my brother coming this week. That's what you can see me singing. Wow. Yeah. It's a little snippet. That's all you get. So anyone who's joined us right now, I'm joined by my good friend Jason and my good friend D.Movieman, and we're going to be talking about top 10 favorite Christmas movies. I'm excited. I put the list together today, kind of done final touches. Before we jump into that, we've got a couple of comments. So we've got Tim saying, "Hey guys, excited for another chat." So hey Tim, hope you're well. I've got Sophie saying, "Hey guys, love the jumper mic." But then she also says, "D, you now win the best Christmas jumper."
I'm telling you, it's the suspenders. It's just you can't get over it. Yes.
With the ball things, yeah.
Exactly. Yes. It draws your eyes. Yes.
Very quickly, D. So when you had that ugly Christmas sweater contest, who voted? Was it just everyone who was there got like a slip and writ out their favorite, or?
They had they did two things because they had judges. They presented each person. It's funny. I'm introverted in general, but when it comes time, whenever there are certain moments like that where I have to be extroverted, something somewhere in here, like a switch goes off. So I was like, okay, let me spin, let me drop down, let me have a whole moment here. And so I was like, okay, and then just display the sweater. And then I made my way to the nearest corner. And so when they asked, we had the judges look over it. And then they also did like I don't know what you call that, but basically they went over each person. They had like a little candy cane thing. and they wanted each person to applaud for who they thought was the best, and most applauded for me. So, and then they said, okay, well, we're already gonna vote for you anyway, but that just confirms it. So they gave me the prize after that.
That's awesome. Yeah, I've never heard of like an ugly sweater like competition or contest before. Jason,
I had asked you about that, and you were like, "Yeah, it's not a thing over here."
Yeah, I've never heard of it. Like, Jason, do you have like stuff like that in Kansas or not?
What, ugly sweaters?
Like ugly sweater like contests or competitions.
I think so. I just never am around for them. I've never bought an ugly sweater before, I guess, and never really participated or saw one, but I think it's a thing.
Get you. I'm surprised you don't have like a Beatles jumper, by the way.
Yeah, that'd be fun. I'd love to have one.
Well, we've got a couple of other comments here. Sophie says, my favorite Christmas songs, I have two, which are Last Christmas and Fairy Tale of New York.
Last Christmas, that's a big one.
Right. We've also got Joe Venice saying Merry Christmas. So yeah, Merry Christmas to you too. Have a great holiday season. And she also says Pentatonics are incredible, so talented.
Yeah.
And then last comment we got is Noran saying, hey peeps, how goes it? Die Hard and Home Alone better be on someone's list or I'm walking. Oh man. Well,
man, that's pressure.
That's right. Quick question, right? So I've never seen Die Hard. I've been open about this before, and I know people watching probably thinking, "What the hell am I doing with my life?" But if you guys have seen Die Hard, is it a Christmas movie?
Jason?
I say no.
Okay.
So, Mike, you get to feel better about your film experience today because you and I are in the same boat for once in regards to that.
Wow.
Yeah, like, I know what Die Hard is. I know Bruce Willis. Like I know I know as much as you can about it. But it's one of those. There's always like a classic film that you skip in your experiences growing up, and Die Hard has always been that one that, for whatever reason, it keeps escaping me. So yeah.
Wow. Okay. Well, Dee, I'm glad that there's a movie that we've both never seen. That's a rarity.
Yeah, exactly.
Got it written down here. Me and D.Movieman haven't seen Die Hard. Future reference.
Die Hard's not going to be on our list. I think that it's not on my list, and I guess it won't be on your guys' list. So.
Nah.
We got
I thought it'd be number one on your guys' list. Everybody loves Die Hard for Christmas movies. I just never cared for it for a Christmas movie.
Nah, I've never seen it. I mean, we've got Joan. She's saying no, it's not a Christmas movie.
Okay.
And then Joan's also added, there was an ugly Christmas sweater contest at my job. Oh, that's awesome. Did you partake? Did you win? Let us know. Sophie saying her and Jason are going to watch Die Hard on Christmas Eve, so she must think it's a Christmas movie. Right. And Noran saying Die Hard is such a well-crafted script, and for me, it takes place at an office Christmas party. It's just action-packed.
Oh, see, I didn't even know that part. So yeah, that's interesting.
No. I knew it was like centered around like the Christmas time, but that's kind of it.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Right. So for anyone who's watching live or after the fact right now, so we're going to go through our top 10 list. We're going to go them through, like, number 10 we'll go around, and then number 9 will go around, and so forth. To start things off, I'm actually going to head it over to D.Movieman, because I think our lists are all going to be very different for different reasons. So D, what's number 10 on your list?
Okay. Let me just say, I had to kind of like waffle back and forth a little bit about this because it's weird because it's like I watch Christmas films, but I guess once we had to put together the 10, it was like I realized there was a lot more than I thought would be on my list. I don't watch as consistently as I thought I did, or I guess over the years, there are like certain ones that I always come back to. Right. So I decided to go with one. This is technically in my honorable mentions, but I just felt like since I'm probably going to be the only person to reference this, I may as well throw it in there. Beauty and the Beast, An Enchanted Christmas from 1997.
Okay.
Wow, okay.
I decided to throw that one in there because it's like one of the few that I know of. I think it's one of the only. It may not be the only, but it's one of the first like Disney films I can recall, besides Mickey's Christmas Carol, that had to do with Christmas. And I think it's really interesting what they do because it's basically like a prequel. It's like a sequel and a prequel at the same time. It takes place with Belle and the prince, after the transformation, after the events of the first film. But it's Christmas and they're having this celebration. And, in the midst of that, they're telling stories and they basically circle back to when she and the Beast were kind of starting to build their relationship. They kind of worked past, the dungeon and all that ugly stuff. And kind of that whole montage of it being winter outside and them kind of getting closer. It takes place during that scene and that whole, time period. And so it's interesting just what they do with the story. I would say my favorite aspect of it is Tim Curry as an evil organ named, I believe it was, no, not Fife, Forte. That was his name. Forte. And that was the first time, I think, that's one of the earliest times besides Toy Story, like they integrated his character as this very CGI, very creepy looking character. It's very disorienting to look at him. And he basically is the character who is anti-Christmas. He is trying to convince the Beast to stay, in the darkness, he's trying to kind of feed into that darker side of the Beast, whereas Belle is the one who was pulling him, hey, Christmas and, togetherness and, trying to get, Lumiere and everybody else, to kind of celebrate. But Forte is there kind of just really trying to ruin everything. And he actually has a villain song, which is basically about not falling in love. One of the lyrics literally says, it's hell when someone's always there. A dog, a cat, a child. They take up so much precious time. It's a really interesting song. And sadly, I think a lot of people can relate to that because go away. I don't want affection. I don't want people around. But yeah, it's just a really interesting film. And I think considering there are a lot of Disney kind of direct-to-video films that aren't the best, to me, I think is one that stands out in a really interesting way. And I've always really enjoyed it. Of course, it's not on the same level as the original film, but I think in and of itself and what it does, I think it's really enjoyable.
Yeah, it sounds, Soph's seen it and they'd track this down, it sounds amazing.
It's on Disney Plus.
Yeah, is it a Disney Plus, D?
I'm pretty sure it's there.
Yeah, pretty sure now on Disney Plus. Yeah.
They have the whole catalog, so there's no way they would put that one there.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a pretty cool. I should start with honorable mentions, so that's a good shout, D. But yeah, no, that's awesome. I've never heard of this one, to be honest. And Tim Curry in it as well. Yeah, that sounds.
I think he's by far the best part of that film, and they actually do something really interesting where they show the Beast transformation also, which was surprising to me at the time because we only see kind of the stained glass kind of storytelling aspect in the first film, whereas you actually see it happen. So that was interesting.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, that sounds unusual. Yeah, Jason, have you seen it?
I haven't seen it. I've heard of it, but
you've heard of it. Okay.
Direct to video kind of thing. Not a theatrical movie, so I haven't seen it, but yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And do you think maybe that it's a little bit under the radar because of all these direct to kind of video and DVDs back in that time?
Absolutely. And then, I am up there in age. So, 97, I think for some people it's huh, when, where? And, I very much had a VHS player still. So, very easy to fall in, for it to kind of gone under the radar with all these other, not even just the direct-to-video films, but we've had, Disney has taken on a whole different life since, that film came out. So it's very easy. And of course it's, it's Christmas, a Christmas movie, so it's in kind of a specific kind of subgenre. So yeah. But I think it's worth the watch. I think it's really enjoyable, especially if you are someone who appreciates Disney films and considering we don't always get a lot of Christmas, Disney films in that way. It's interesting to watch.
Yeah. Yes, it sounds very intriguing. I say like Tim Curry alone, like would sell me on that. Massive fan of Tim Curry. I'm intrigued. Dave. I'm gonna have to search it out on Disney Plus. Unless anyone watching live right now is in the UK and you've got Disney Plus right now, so you can check if it's on there for me. That'd be great. So yeah, D's got a pretty cool honorable mention. My very honorable mention, very quickly, is I wrote down a Bad Santa. Not a movie that I think is absolutely amazing or anything like that, but I think it was kind of my first kind of, is it like R rating for you guys in the States?
Yep.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
Very much.
Okay. Because over here in the UK, we've got like age rating 15, and then we've got like 18, which is like our highest rating.
Right.
Okay.
And this was rated at 15, so it's kind of second highest rating, which
okay.
Yeah, it means like you usually got a lot of swearing. If it's an 18, it's usually like with blood, like a lot of blood, gory stuff, kind of like that. Billy Bob Thornton, I thought was a great, like, it was something different at the time when this was released, and more of like a rogue take on Santa, I guess you could say. So yeah, it didn't quite make my top 10, but on my honorable mentions. Jason, what about you? Do you have an honorable mention?
I have a couple, if you want me to.
Yeah, D, do you have more than one, D, or was it just the one?
Oh, I have a second one. So yeah, you can go ahead first.
All right, cool. Go, Jason.
Well, I have A Christmas Story. Just barely missed my list. Obviously, classic. I have Santa Claus the movie, which it's not the Tim Allen one. It's an older one.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's from the 70s, maybe. John Lithgow plays the bad guy. It's one I loved as a kid. I have Home Alone 2, Lost in New York. Another good one. And then I put Love Actually is the other one I put that I quite enjoy.
Nice. Yeah, I know a lot. So Love Actually, I know like a lot of people really like that movie. It's another one I've never seen. It's on my list to watch. But yeah, I would say Home Alone 2, Jason. Yeah, I'd say by that as another honorable mention for me. The first one's on my list, so I'll go into that one to get to it.
Yeah.
But some nice picks there. D, what's your other honorable mention you've got?
Again, difficult to kind of bounce back and forth and figure what the next one should be. But I'll actually have to go with Love Actually, because I kind of waffled back and forth as far as it being on the list versus being an honorable mention. But I decided to put it in the honorable because it's kind of one that's more mainstream and a lot of people love. It's crazy because I just saw, I think they did some kind of a special on the anniversary of it. I think it's been like 19 years. I think it'll probably be 20 years next year, which is crazy to remember when that film first came out. So. But yeah, I love Love Actually because I love anthology stories. I love like when we are we have all these different vantage points and we're telling all these different stories in one film.
Yeah.
And I like the perspective of each story and how different they are. I even like the fact that and it's bittersweet, but there's one of the stories where you think that it's about, someone falling in love with their coworker and it's this perfect, ideal situation. And then something goes awry there. And you realize that the love that they're referencing there has more so to do with their devotion to someone in their life who needs their help. I don't want to spoil it because it's very poignant once you realize that. But when I saw that, I was like, whoa. And I don't know, it's just the way it just portrays different perspectives of love. I like that part. I know love and romance isn't everyone's favorite genre, but I like the fact that they were willing to explore it from so many different vantage points. And that's because that's the same thing with life. There are so many different ways to approach it, different cultures, different personalities. So I really love that one.
Yeah.
It's an all-star cast of English actors. I mean, I feel like you owe it to your country to watch it.
Exactly. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, as I say, it's definitely on my list to watch. And I think if a movie like Love Actually, for example, like you guys obviously like that movie, and I think it's one of those movies where it has like so many different stories going on in 1 hour and a half feature, however long.
Tons of them.
Yeah, like if it can nail it right, it's like a classic as such. Like Love Actually, everyone goes to that movie for this kind of time of year and stuff, you know. I'm definitely going to get to it, guys. I watched last year. I watched The Holiday for the first time.
Oh,
I wasn't a fan, but
Yeah.
might just be me. So yeah, Love Actually, I'm hoping it's going to be good when I watch it. Don't doubt it though, especially if you guys love it. We've got Noran and Bad Santa, fantastic, so vulgar, but love it.
Yeah.
So says, I love Bad Santa, so funny, firm and Merman. It's an annoying child, but lovable. And we've also got Joseph one saying, have a great stream, guys, just getting ready to go for work. How fun. Yeah. Yeah, so before we get into our top 10, D or Jason, do you have any more honorable mentions?
I will just slide in there.
Sure.
It came to mind. And I think some people debate whether, to me, it counts as a Christmas movie. But there are at least 4 different variations of the story, Little Women. And there are like 4 different film adaptations of them. And I think that I've seen at least 3 out of the 4. There's one in the 30s with Katharine Hepburn that I haven't seen.
Yeah.
But there's something very classic about that story because it's based on a book. And I don't know, it's just something really compelling about the story. You know, I love period pieces, of course, but I love the fact that it's these women and their mother who are kind of dealing, you know, with these kind of dire circumstances during wartime, and their father is away, and just trying to keep the faith, trying to keep hope alive, and really kind of trying to figure out where life is going to progress. But their bond as sisters and as a family really keeps them together. And that's just one that really always hits home. There are some, you know, darker places that the story takes on, and just kind of seeing their, you know, their determination to survive and keep hope alive and stick close together as a family is something that really resonates with me, especially during the holiday season when, even though it's not wartime, of course, you know, the holiday can be very sad and very lonely or very bleak for a lot of people. And so seeing kind of an aspect of that where it's not just happy, and it's set in a different time period, I appreciate every variation of that story, just the story as a whole.
Yeah, I've never seen it, but it now correct me if I'm sounding stupid here. But wasn't there very recently a new iteration of Little Women that was Emma Watson?
Yeah,
it was Emma Watson, Saoirse Ronan, what's her name? Midsummer, Don't Worry, Darling, Florence Pugh.
Okay.
As well. So it was pretty star-studded. Timothée Chalamet, like it was pretty. Meryl Streep, it was pretty star-studded.
Right. Okay. Yeah, because I remember seeing that one advertised. I never got a chance to check it out. I missed it.
2019, I want to say, came out.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What?
Nominated for Best Picture. Yeah. Best Actress, Best Supporting Actress. Yeah.
Wow. It just felt like that trailer was last year, and I missed last year's movie.
It was like the last movie I saw before the pandemic, and then I didn't watch a movie for a couple of years in the theater.
Wow. Okay. Well, I didn't realize it was 2019. I honestly thought it was last year.
Yeah, no, 2019. Yeah.
Jeez. God, where's the 3 years gone? Wow. Okay. I love that. That's awesome. Yeah, as I say, the only iteration I thought was, you know, the Emma Watson one. I thought that was just, you know, a brand new movie, never had like previous interpretations of that story. Yeah. Which version would you say is the best?
The 2019 to me is my favorite. Yeah.
Which one?
The 2019 version is my favorite.
That's hard. Because I've appreciated each one that I've seen. Even like I was surprised. I mean, I wasn't surprised because I mean, it was interesting to me how well, I'm gonna say it was either the 50s or the 60s, but the one they did, it was interesting because Elizabeth Taylor plays one of the sisters in that film, and it's very much outside of her kind of glamour, beauty, you know,
much younger,
that kind of aesthetic. So it was interesting seeing her in that role. But I would have to say probably the 90s because I feel like there's a certain grounding to the story, and I think 2019 has that as well. But there's something about the way that it's hard, but I would say probably 90s. I have to go back and watch all of them just to kind of be sure. But 90s, that was the one that kind of really put me on to the story to begin with. Kristen, was still a young girl. Christian Bale is in it. Susan Sarandon, Winona Ryder.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, that's another star-studded cast too. So
Yeah.
So I would say that for now, even though I appreciated a lot about what they did in 2019, especially like with Amy's character and just the way they expanded certain things. Yeah. So you really can't go wrong with any version, but I'll say 90s for now.
They're all pretty good.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to start on the 90s version and I'll watch the 2019 one and then go from there, I think. Wow, Christian...
90s one is kind of the one everybody talks about, I feel like. At least growing up. That was one my sisters absolutely loved, and my mom, and they watched it all the time.
Right.
It's kind of a chick flick, but I like it. So
I think it depends, though. So like for us guys, grew up in like the 80s or 90s, like as I did, growing up near that time, you're gonna remember that movie. Whereas when you get the new interpretation, be like, I really enjoyed it, but that's the one that you grew up with, that nostalgia, I guess.
Right.
So yeah, get where you're coming from. We're going to start with our lists now. So we're going to go in from number 10. I'll kick things off. My number 10 is a movie I think I saw last year or maybe 2020. I can't remember when. My partner Emma introduced me to it, and that is the 1970. I can't remember what year in the 70s, but Black Christmas. I really enjoyed the movie. Like a simple movie, but enjoyed it. Got Margot Kidder in there as well. And that was before I'd watched. I saw this movie after I watched the original Superman series, which I covered with Dave on his channel, and I was like, "Oh, it's Lois Lane." It's like, okay, cool. It's simple movie. I think last year I also watched like the remake from like a couple of years ago. Which we'll not talk about on the stream, unless you guys like that movie. But D's shaking his head, so no. But yeah, not much really to add. I really enjoyed the movie, simplistic, and just entertained throughout. So Black Christmas is my number 10.
Yeah, I was going to say about Black Christmas. Also, I know Margot Kidder from the Amityville Horror. The original film from '79. She's done some really solid films, and I remember Black Christmas. I remember I found out about this Black Christmas because there was another one that came out in 2006 with Carrie Fisher, and that's when I found out that this one existed. And I did a trailer reaction to Halloween Kills. And I do like my deep dives in the history of the a franchise or whatever might be related to the film that the trailer is related to. And Black Christmas is actually what kind of inspired Halloween and kind of is responsible for its success and all the films we got. Then after the fact, Black Christmas was pretty much ahead of its time, so it definitely deserves its flowers.
Yeah, absolutely. And I didn't know that about the Halloween though. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, so my number 10. So Jason, what have you got for your number 10?
All right, my number 10. I feel like it's an underrated movie that's somewhat divisive, but I put The Polar Express at number 10 on my list. I feel like it gets criticized quite a bit because it's kind of the first time they tried this Robert Zemeckis directs the movie, and it's the first time he kind of delved into this kind of new animation style, I would say, where all the characters are motion captured, and it's I don't know how to describe the animation. It's just a little different, and it's supposed to look like the humans. Their eyes look a little off. They have like these dead eyes or something. And so it's a little creepy, but I don't know. I still really enjoy, I enjoy the animation. In fact, a lot of animation stuff and the whole thing is this kid doesn't believe in Christmas. He gets on this train comes by called the Polar Express. Tom Hanks is the conductor, and they get on this train to the North Pole to see Santa. And the music is really good in it. And I love the train goes off the rails, and I just love the whole sequence. And I saw the movie in IMAX, and I thought it looked really good in IMAX. And and I just really enjoyed the whole story. And And then they get to North Pole and see Santa and all that, and he believes again or whatever. And it has one of my favorite songs, Christmas songs, "Believe" by Josh Groban, that got nominated for best song at the Oscars, but unfortunately lost. But I thought that was such a great song. Anyway, so yeah, it's one I enjoy watching every Christmas.
Yeah, awesome. I mean, and you know me, Back to the Future. I love Robert Zemeckis, and
Right.
I know Tom Hanks. Yeah, believe it or not, it's one I've not seen.
Okay.
But I know it's coming onto the cinema in a couple of days' time. It's like a reissue.
Okay.
So we're hoping to catch it. But yeah, I've heard it's got I know it recently got a 4K release, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, really?
I believe so. Yeah. And yeah, I know a lot of people love it. Jason, is it in your list somewhere?
It isn't, but I did read the original. They used to read it to us at school, and I always enjoyed the original book that it's adapted from. And I believe it's Chris Van Allred, but the same author who did the original Jumanji book.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Did that, and his children's books are just really solid. But yeah, I always thought the concept of it was fun. It's like you hop on the train, they have this all this hot chocolate.
Hot chocolate.
Yes, I was sold once I saw that.
Yeah.
But yeah, just conceptually, it was such a cool idea to be able just to hop on this train, and then you have the North Pole and Santa, and that whole having this huge kind of otherworldly Christmas experience. So yeah, that's one I have to see. And I do remember the criticism for that, but I think with any technology, it's kind of like someone has to be the first. So even if it is awkward, it kind of set the standard, and then that's a big part of why we see what we see now. Or even like with Avatar and that just came out, someone has to be the first one to kind of lead the way for that. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Because I like what you guys were saying. I remember the animation being quite different. I think you're saying, Jason, it was like motion capture.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, as Dee said, I mean, have they ever done an animation since that's used that kind of same animation?
Zemeckis kind of made a career out of it for a little while.
Okay.
They did Beowulf.
Yeah.
Shortly after this one, which I thought was really terrible. And of course, the Christmas Carol with Jim Carrey was another Robert Zemeckis one.
I've seen parts of that.
I can't remember. There might be some more that I'm forgetting, but
get you. No, yeah, cool. I've seen bits of that Christmas Carol with Jim Carrey. Yeah, that's interesting. I'm excited to see what Dee's got for number 10. Before we get to that, we've got Gareth saying, "Hey guys," so hey, thanks for tuning in. Soap saying, "I saw Polar Express at the cinema and got so scared of the homeless man and on the train."
Yeah, Tom Hanks plays 3 or 4 different characters in the.
Oh, interesting.
He plays the conductor. He plays the homeless man on top of the hobo, whatever, on top of the train, and he plays Santa Claus as well in the movie.
Wow. Okay. I knew he was the conductor. I didn't know about the rest though.
Yeah, I didn't either.
It's kind of like Jim Carrey. Jim Carrey did the same thing where he played Scrooge, I think, and then he played at least one or maybe of the Ghost of Christmas, whatever.
Right.
So I know that's the thing they like to do, I guess, is play multiple roles in these things.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then when we got Soundlines as well, I did Polar Express says. I remember seeing the movie in the theater and wondering if the movie was animated or live.
Right.
Now, definitely tell it's animated.
Right.
Yeah, a bit different at the time. And he also adds Andy Serkis uses motion capture all the time.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it's
Spielberg did a movie about what's it called? 10 something? Renton? I can't remember now.
Oh, are you talking about the Adventures of Tintin?
Yes, Adventures of Tintin. And that was kind of a similar style of motion capture.
Right.
Yeah, I didn't catch on. I played the video game of that one, no. So the cutscenes I could tell it was kind of like what you guys are on about with the motion capture.
Right.
So yeah, for anyone who's watching live right now, if you've got top 10 favorite Christmas movies, we're on to number 10. So if you want to chime in, feel free. So D, what have you got for number 10?
So my number 10 is one that has actually already been mentioned, and there's no way I couldn't mention this because it's a very, to me, it's an important film in the Christmas genre. But in a unlikely one. That is Bad Santa from 2004. I'm telling you, I am not. I don't know what the word is, but it's like I'm not huge on like, you know, a lot of the raunchy, over the top R-rated comedies. You know, like I'm fine with some of them, but some of them are real gross out, weird, over the top stuff, and I'm like, okay, some of this is fine, some of it is just like I'm good. But Bad Santa was just funny because you think about the concept of Christmas and how there's this innocence to it, and you know how family friendly the holiday is, and Bad Santa is like none of those things. It's just a lot of chaos and hijinks. I mean, if I'm not mistaken, we have a scene where Billy Bob Thornton's character is beating up kids, and it's just like that's not something you expect to see in anything related to Santa. So it's just, and I think it's the film that gave me an appreciation for Billy Bob Thornton, because he's not an actor I grew up with. Honestly, the main reason I knew who Billy Bob Thornton was is because of his really chaotic marriage to Angelina Jolie.
Yeah.
And that moment when they were like on television telling people how they, you know what, is in the car on the way there, like that, they were a really interesting pair. Yeah. But so I didn't really know much about him outside of that. But that film kind of gave me an appreciation for his very oddball style of performances. It's something interesting about the way he portrays that character. But yeah, Bad Santa is just a fun time, and it's one of the few times where I think that R-rated, raunchy, in your face element really, really works for the film.
Yeah, good pick, D. You know, we were saying about it earlier. And yeah, you know, I got to agree with you, D. Like, I've never really been a big fan of Billy Bob Thornton. I've seen him in a couple of movies, but I've never been like, you know, like a go-to actor.
Right.
I remember the part with Angelina Jolie though with the interview. Yeah, that's all I'll say. But yeah, no, that's a good pick. We've got very quick. We've got Pete saying, "Evening, guys." So hey, Pete, thanks for tuning in. So they're saying Bad Santa 2 is awful compared to the first one.
I didn't know there was a 2, so I guess that tells you everything you need to know.
Yeah, I don't think it was talked about as much.
Yeah,
I can't remember what year that came out. I'd have to look it up.
I
don't remember much about it though, being honest with you. I think him and the kids in it again, though. Obviously, the kid's grown up now, though, you know.
Okay. Wow.
But yeah, D, I think you're probably better off just not watching it. We've got a question from Pete. Now, we've talked about Die Hard being a Christmas movie in our thoughts, but he says Lethal Weapon as a Christmas movie. I never thought of it as a Christmas movie. Have you guys?
No.
Lethal Weapon is another one that has escaped me. I know it is star-studded. I know it is like been an ongoing series for a really long time, but it's another one that flew the coop, unfortunately.
Get you. Yeah, I mean, I've seen the first one. I quite like the first one. Jason, is it a Christmas movie?
In my opinion, it's not. But I'm very strict on what's a Christmas movie. I feel like everybody just throws out all these kind of movies. Oh, this is a Christmas movie, and I'm like, really? I feel like Christmas movies is very specifically about Christmas, I guess, and maybe that's just me, but.
Yeah, well, I'm sure we'll get more into that as we get into our lists.
Yeah.
So we've started off light. We've gone out for number 10. So number 9 for me is, I tell you what, I'm going to go to Jason first. Jason, what have you got for number 9?
Gosh, you guys have like 2 rated R movies, and I come out with this very family-friendly movie. I'm like, wow, I'm on a different wavelength here. No rated R movies on my list. They're all PG. I guess the PG-13 ones. Number 9, I have a classic, Miracle on 34th Street.
Yeah.
That I know Mike saw recently, and it seems like you enjoyed it. So, I forget this is in the 1950s, maybe, or 40s. I'm forgetting how long. It's pretty long ago. The original with now I'm forgetting his name. Gwen, I think his name is, plays Santa Claus in it. Whatever. Chris Cream. And Natalie Wood plays a little girl in it. Yeah, it's a classic movie about guy saying that he's Santa, and they're trying to put him in the insane asylum for it. And so then they have a trial in it, trying to prove that he's Santa. And it's interesting because it's like, obviously he's not Santa, and I don't think we're supposed to think that he's Santa. You know, he's not magical or anything, but it's like, it's funny how they somehow prove him to be Santa, or they kind of prove that there's doubt, you know, like he could be Santa, like who knows. And it's kind of ridiculous, but I absolutely love it. The trial part of the movie. I love they put the prosecutor on the stand and ask him if Santa's real, and he wants to say no, but his son is there, so he has to say yes. So under oath he says yes. So they're like, okay, there's Santa, because he said it under oath, and it's like, okay, that's ridiculous, but I'll take it, you know. And and the whole you know, yeah, bringing all the letters from the kids, and like, this proves he's Santa. He has the Santa Claus letters, and it's like, okay. And the judge, I love that the judge is like under pressure, because everybody's like, you shouldn't take this case because it's against Santa, and everybody's going to hate you for taking this, the judge, whatever. And even his kids like hate him. So he's like, and his wife, like, they're like being mean to him because he's like, you know, prosecuting. Well, he's just a judge, but he's overseeing this Santa Claus thing. And so I think he even wants him to be innocent, so he can get back in good graces and all this. So I don't know. It's a pretty nice story. Natalie Wood is so cute. I love her as that girl who's super serious, doesn't know how to have fun. All that. Yeah, it's a nice Christmas classic, I guess.
Yeah, I've got to agree. So as you were saying, Jason, I saw this recently. I'll add more to it later because it's in my list.
Okay.
D, is it in your list anyway?
It is not, but I actually I remember my mother buying me the '90s remake with Mara Wilson, who played Matilda.
Yeah.
I remember seeing that version, and of course, at the time, not realizing there was a original that it was, you know, remade from until I got older. So no, that's one I still have to see, because it took a while before I even realized that there was like an original film. But I've heard great things about it.
Yeah, Edmund Gwynn, I now remember, that's the guy who plays the main character, and he won an Oscar for Best Supporting Actor for the role. So I mean, that's how good he was as Santa.
Yeah, I've got to agree. So I wasn't a huge fan of the remake personally. I would definitely think Mara Wilson and Richard Attenborough are fantastic in that remake, though. But yeah, I'll add more onto the original when we get further down. But yeah, good pick, Jason. Yeah, got to agree. And I only saw the movie for the first time like less than 2 weeks ago.
I
know. So better late than never. So yeah, D. Before I go on to number 9, what have you got for number 9?
Number 9, I'm gonna go with Krampus from 2015.
Nice.
Christmas horror is not a subgenre that I have a lot of experience with. I can't really think of. I know there are some, but I can't really think of too many experiences I've had with that as a subgenre. And Krampus, and I don't think I even knew anything about Krampus as far as the mythology of it or like any of that. So this was kind of my introduction to the character, and just that lore and all of that. And I just thought it was a really fun, occasionally very creepy and intense film that really explores the idea of what happens when you reject the idea of Christmas. Like, and especially I love the opening because it opens with am I saying it wrong? I hope not. But yeah, but I love the opening of that film because it opens with the song, you know, it's the most wonderful time of the year. But it's playing as you see these people attacking each other at these stores. They're knocking each other upside the head, trying to grab this and, you know, last minute shopping. And then you just get the sense that it's become this commercialized, frenzied, you know, we've lost the spirit of what this is. And then we see that trickle down into the family. And just like what happens to push this main character to the point where he's like, look, I'm tired of Christmas. I'm over it. And I would say just where it goes as far as the punishment for that, there are just some really satisfying moments. I would say my favorite scene in that entire film is when the daughter ventures outside and she kind of realizes, okay, like it's nothing but snow everywhere. Like I don't see anybody. It's like what's going on? And all of a sudden, everything gets really, really dark, and then she sees something on the roof, and then it jumps and lands on the other roof, and then she starts screaming and running. And as she's running, all you see is this figure, Krampus, like running and jumping, and you hear this really creepy sound. He's like literally outpacing her and just hopping over the roof. Like I love that whole scene, and I just think it's a good example of how effectively creepy and and interesting the character is, and the backstory with the grandmother, and a lot of what we get with that. And I even like how ambiguous the ending is. Some people feel like it's a kind of a happy ending, and I think you can interpret that either way. Like, is it the idea that these characters might be stuck some kind of way, or are they simply being watched just in case something goes wrong again? So yeah, really, really enjoyable.
Yeah, great pick. Yeah, again, another one I can't add much to because it's on later on in my list.
Right.
But yeah, I'll talk about it a little bit later. But yeah, I really like the movie as well, D. Great pick. Jason, have you seen Krampus?
Never seen it, no.
Yeah, okay. Well, I know you're not massive into horror, so
No.
that's fair. But yeah, good pick, guys. For number 9, Jason's with Miracle on 34th Street, D with Krampus. Yeah, for number 9, I've got Jingle All the Way with Arnold Schwarzenegger. And I know people might be thinking, why have I picked that for number 9? Why is it even in the top 10? I grew up on this movie. Yeah. Me and my brother watched this quite a lot of time. Arnold and Sinbad in here. And just create. And I think it was kind of like at the time. I mean, I guess still relevant now with the commercialization at times for Christmas. I know this whole Turbo Man and everyone going crazy for this one action figure. And the fact Arnold is going crazy for his son to get him this toy because he leaves it last minute, and it's sold out pretty much everywhere. But then you got Sinbad also wanting it as well. And it's realistic. How many times have we all probably left to buy something at the last minute and it's sold out, and you're stressing or you panic buying kind of thing. Yeah. It's just a fun movie, definitely goofy, some CG and green screen that's aged terribly now. But yeah, I still think it's a fun movie. We've got the classic Arnold Schwarzenegger line in there as well. What's not to love, So that's my justification for Jingle All the Way.
Okay.
Yeah, and while we're here, we've also got Pete saying, loving the festive jumpers, guys. So hey, thanks, man. And Sub says, I have seen Jingle All the Way once back in 2016. Okay, did you love it? Let us know. And Pete saying Bad Santa 2 was an unnecessary sequel.
Yeah.
And also Kathy Bates was in that one as well. I forgot about that.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I totally missed this. I don't know where I was.
Watching a better movie, probably.
Probably.
So number 9, we've wrapped up. So we've got 8 more to go. D, I'm going to start with you this time. What have you got for number 8?
So for number 8, I have The Family Stone from 2005. Okay. It's another star-studded one. There's a lot of folks in this one. We have Sarah Jessica Parker. We have Rachel McAdams, Dermot Mulroney, Diane. I was like that. But Claire Danes is in it.
Is it Luke Wilson?
Huh?
Luke Wilson, is he in that one?
Yeah, he's in it as well. But Diane Keaton as the mom, that's who I was forgetting. Yeah, Diane Keaton, and of course, it's your typical story of a family gathering together for Christmas. But there's a little bit of a twist because one of the esteemed sons of the family, he is bringing home a woman to meet them, his girlfriend, and it's about the awkwardness and the and other things that happen as she's there, and people have to adjust because, of course, she's not someone who is used to being around a very kind of relaxed, carefree, not your typical family. And she's very, she's a business executive, so she's very tight, very straight laced and very rigid and everyone else is not that. And so it's about kind of the family's adjustment dealing with her. And then, of course, the complications of the family as you realize that there are certain secrets and certain things that are going on with each of them. And also how things get even more complicated when her sister ends up coming to visit. And then that makes things even more interesting because she's the complete opposite of Sarah Jessica Parker's character. And it's then about how they see her and then how they, it's a lot that goes on. It sounds like a very simple, kind of straightforward film, but there are a lot of dynamics that go on. The characters are zany and the stuff that goes on is bonkers. But ultimately, I always love it because it brings me back to some of the experiences of my own family. We're not quite this wacky, but definitely just the idea of togetherness and just kind of interesting dynamics when you bring different people under one roof.
Yeah, it's a one that I've seen at the movie poster for quite a few times, and I'm a massive fan of Diane Keaton, so I was sold immediately when I saw the poster. It was one of those movies that went on my Instagram polls, being like, right, which one do I cover for Christmas? With National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation ultimately winning, because I was wanting to see that one, and I think it was one you recommended, Diva's Christmas Carol. I was like, what is this?
Yeah. I may or may not have more to say on that, but yes, but when you put that up, I was trying so hard, but I got beaten, but that's fine. And the only other thing I forgot to say this, but with the family piece, I love the fact that they had someone who was deaf and or hearing impaired because that was also a family experience that I've had. And so seeing that dynamic represented as well was something that was really cathartic to see because I'm like, oh my gosh, this is I know this experience. And so I think that might have been the first time I've seen that in that sense, I'll say. So that also was something that I really appreciated.
Yeah. And when did the Family Stone come out? Was it early 2000s?
Yeah, that was 2005.
Right. Yeah. I thought it was. Yeah. And the thing is, I think around that time, as you mentioned there, Dilo, I don't think you really got many kind of representation for deaf people.
Right.
Such because in some movies now you get the old person who can't really hear, or they kind of come out with more kind of vulgar lines as such,
Right.
Yeah, so comedy. But no, that's awesome. Yeah, I'm still going to watch it this year though, D. So when I do, I'll let you know what I think of the movie.
Yes, please do.
Yeah,
I feel like Phil McAdams was starting to get kind of big at that point, maybe, or just kind of the beginning of her really.
Oh, definitely
becoming a really big leading actress.
Well, it was around the time the Mean Girls, right? Because I think that was 2004.
Yeah, so that was not long after. Yeah.
Yeah. She was definitely, you can tell that she was going to be a star, I think, at that point.
And again, as you mentioned, Dilo, a massive star-studded cast as well.
Yeah, big cast.
And when I was looking through lists over the last couple of days, being top movies of all time for Christmas, Family Stone was on there as well. So I have to check it out. So no, that's a great pick. We've got Pete in, got National Lampoons this year to watch this year for your first time watch. Same for me. We've got Roddy saying, hey all, so hey, hope you're doing well. Pete saying, Deck the Halls on Christmas with the Cranks was pretty fun. Yeah, I don't mind those movies. If he says, wasn't Nicolas Cage in a Christmas film?
He was, The Family Man.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay. Did not know that.
That's a good one.
Yeah, okay. That's interesting. I mean, I got a screener the other day for a movie coming in January where Nicolas Cage is going to be in his first Western movie. So,
interesting.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. And so saying about Family Stone, never heard of it, but it's on Disney Plus, so we'll have to watch it. So, awesome note, because I'll check it out as well. I'm going to go over my number 8, and we're going to go over to Jason. Number 8 for me is a movie that I went to the cinema to see at the time. I actually went on a date to see this movie at the time. I don't know, you guys always kind of remember those like experiences. And it's a movie called Four Christmases.
Okay.
I know a lot of people hate this movie. I know behind the scenes, like Reese Witherspoon and Vince Vaughn did not get along at all.
Oh.
Yeah, so what? I didn't know this at the time. It's only because a couple of years ago I covered this movie with Anthony Perez. And when I watch a movie now, I like to go on IMDb, check the trivia out, and thing. Bit like you, D, always like to know like the behind the scenes and what's gone on. And yeah, I think what it was is because Reese Witherspoon on set, from what I heard, is she used to always turn up early and on time. Like say if they were starting a scene at 10 o'clock, she'd be there for like 9:50. So she was there early and ready to go, Vince Vaughn would show up like half an hour late, like every day, or hour late. So she was like, well, we want to get this done. So yeah, they didn't get on. At one scene, I think they were meant to have like a really like love-making scene. That's all we'll say. And because it didn't get on, she was like, that's not happening. So, but I didn't know that though, because I think in the movie, I was like, they come across as a good couple. It's believable. Yeah. And then when you read that behind the scenes, you're like, wow, they really are good actors,
I always wonder how, regardless, I always wonder how actors are able to be intensely intimate on camera. Now, granted, I've seen some of I've seen like some of what it looks like on set. So it's obviously like when you have people constantly telling you move this way and do this and like all these people everywhere, I imagine like it's very awkward and weird and bizarre. But then also if you don't like the person, it's just kind of like I have to pretend to. Granted, that's where the whole professionalism come in and the acting ability comes in. But still, like I know how I am when I don't like someone, so I would have to like really reach from deep inside my soul.
I don't think
I'm not feeling somebody. It's hard for me to get around it, and you can usually tell.
Yeah. Imagine how hard it is, as you said, OD, like if we didn't like someone and then you have to like kiss them in that movie. Reese Witherspoon was like, right, where's the mouthwash? Take us out to the bathroom. I still really enjoyed the movie though. It's a goofy movie at the time. I was very younger at the time when I saw this movie. I was on a date, so I just remember it being a good time.
That's a good date.
What's that?
That's a good date movie.
Yeah, I'd definitely say at the time it was like a good, like kind of just like comedy movie as well. I guess with like dates, like comedy or horror, you can't really go wrong, I guess.
I don't know about horror, but yeah, comedy for sure.
I enjoyed the movie. Reese Witherspoon, I like as an actress in general, and Vince Vaughn, I like as an actor as well.
Yeah.
Four Christmases for me. Jason, what have you got for number 8?
All right, number 8, classic from my childhood, and it's Home Alone.
Nice.
Huge hit. Maybe one of the biggest movies of that year. It came out, I want to say 90, 91. I don't know, somewhere in that area. I didn't see it at the theater. I don't know. I think I must have caught it on video or something shortly after. And man, I was obsessed with this movie as a kid. I think because the main character was a kid. And so I was like maybe a similar age. And I was like, yeah, I would love to be home alone, do my own thing. And like the idea of the kid like outsmarting the two criminals that come in, Harry and the wet bandits, whatever Joe Pesci and now I'm forgetting names, but yeah. I think as a kid, I just loved that last scene where the wet bandit criminals come in and just get demolished and so many horrifying ways, but it was absolutely hilarious to watch as a kid. These bumbling idiots, do all kinds of crazy things and get hit with paint cans. And I think one gets, I get mixed up between the first and the second movie. One I think gets his hand, he hits, I don't know if that might be the second one, I can't remember. Oh, I know he gets an iron to the face because he has a big iron,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
mark from the iron that hits his face, and
Mm.
yeah, that scene is just so much fun to watch. And you got the classic like that was everywhere.
Yeah.
Like that's such an iconic moment. And man, Macaulay Culkin was like, I mean, it was like peak Macaulay Culkin.
Yeah.
He was at the height of his career. Unfortunately, it didn't really go very good after, I don't know, he did a couple more movies and then maybe The Good Son, and then it kind of disappeared. But man, he was really big at the time. Anyways, yeah, and maybe it's more of a nostalgia pick for me. Now I'm an adult, so now I think the kids are all annoying, and I'm like, I don't like these kids. But I still have some nostalgia for the movie when I was a kid.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Jason, that's a fantastic pick. It's down. It's like in my list, so I can't really say too much else on it.
Be on someone's list.
It gotta be, yeah. So yeah, it's definitely on my list. D, is it on yours anyway?
It may or may not be.
Okay. Yeah, Jason, great pick. I've got Norman saying the nail in the foot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That one's great. Oh, that hurts.
And we've got Adam from the gym saying, "Hey, very early Christmas. Hope you're all well." So, hey, Adam, early Christmas to you too, my friend. Hope you're doing well. And so I'm saying, have you seen the rated R Home Alone on YouTube?
No,
I have not.
I have not.
I've seen it. Yeah.
Well, in real life, these guys would be dead or in the hospital for sure. It's
Absolutely
great. As a kid, I didn't think about it. As an adult, I watch it and maybe because I work at a hospital, so all I think about is, oh my gosh, that's terrible. Like,
right.
Yeah, I mean, I think those guys, Jason, probably dead.
Dead. Paint can to the head. That would concussion at least, right? I don't know.
Right. But I mean, the iron to the face as well, like a scalding hot iron,
Iron, yeah.
Yeah. I got more add to it when we get to it, but yeah, great pick. So we're on to number 7 right now. So again, anyone who's watching live, feel free in the comments to add in some favorite movies of yours. I'll go first for number 7. I've got Last Christmas, that came out a couple of years ago with Emilia Clarke and Henry Golden, I believe.
I don't know this one.
Oh, you don't?
No.
Oh, okay. I'm not sure if it's on maybe Disney Plus now. I'm not sure. But yeah, I remember just going into the movies. I think it was like an early showing at the cinema at the time, and I didn't think much of it. I wasn't really sold on the trailer or anything like that. I went in and I pretty much had nearly a tear after I saw the movie. Yeah. Emilia Clarke's great in it. I think Henry Golden's also great in the movie. Emma Thompson is great. She's so funny. And I don't want to say too much without kind of spoilers. Like even so, saying here Last Christmas was great, but that ending, no spoilers.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, Mike, did you guess that without context?
No. So I kind of had I wouldn't really say I had an inkling, but I was like, what's going on? Like something seems not quite right. That's what I want to say, because I don't want to ruin for Jason, because you've never seen it. Jason, I think you'd probably like the movie.
Was it a theatrical movie, or was it straight to streaming?
Yeah, I actually went to see it with my friends. Yeah, it came out.
Okay.
You did? Oh, awesome.
Whatever.
Well, Noran is saying it's on Hulu, he believes.
Okay. Cool.
So if you're interested. So just a really surprising movie, sweet movie as well. I think just a nice British movie as well, which I didn't really expect. So yeah, and then I showed my partner Emma the movie just literally last Christmas, and she was in tears as well. So she really enjoyed it. So that's my number 7. D, and what about you?
So my number 7 is one that's special to me for a few reasons, but it's a very relatable film. That would be The Preacher's Wife from 1996 with Denzel Washington, Whitney Houston, and Courtney B. Vance. It basically tells a story of a preacher who is kind of in crisis mode. He's not like there's a lot that he's facing as far as his environment, his neighborhood. He's trying to figure out like what is his calling, and what is in his marriage is kind of on the decline, and so he is basically praying for some kind of miracle, and he gets it in the form of a young man named Dudley, played by Denzel Washington, who actually turns out to be an angel sent by God to kind of lead and guide him, through this experience. And it's just it reminds me of so much. Like I always talk about how I grew up in Gary, Indiana, and I grew up in Chicago, and how significant the Black church experience was for us, and just like the music and whatever word was being preached, and just having that experience, it really shaped me, and kind of that sense of unity and togetherness. And so much of that is showcased in this film. Whitney Houston, of course, is one of the greatest voices of all time. She's singing throughout. I think it's probably the only time she did a full gospel album, but her roots are in the church. So just hearing her sing is next level. Beautiful soundtrack, and just the performances, and just the poignant nature of the story, and just what it reminds me of in regards to my own family, in regards to the church, just kind of what it taught me about that experience. And it's so interesting because I think this is one of the earliest, because I always talk about like there are a lot of films, there are times where I've watched films and they've taught me something about real life that I didn't know, and I was very, very young around this time. And there's an element in this film that deals with gentrification, and this neighborhood being kind of cast aside to build condominiums and to kind of revamp the area. And that was my first kind of understanding of why that can be such a hot button issue, and why in this case it was very detrimental, especially to these people and their way of life, because it would mean the end of this church, the end of this, the connectivity of this community and all of that. So I don't know, it was just a very special film to me for many reasons, and so I definitely had to include that on this list.
Yeah, that's what I really wanted to do this live stream for, with like yourself and Jason and Alex. I know you couldn't be here, because I knew you guys this would be different, and I just hearing your experiences about those movies. So I could never picture like Denzel Washington in a Christmas movie.
Yeah, I forgot about that one, but yeah,
he was in a Christmas movie.
The message, well, excuse me, not the message, but I forgot to mention that a part of the complication of the story comes with the fact that Dudley is there to assist the preacher with kind of getting his life together and guiding him. But because he and his wife Julia are not in the best place, he also is, trying to kind of be there for her as well. But in the process of being there for her, he starts to kind of maybe fall for her a little bit, which obviously caused some kind of conflict there. So I meant to throw that in there as well, because I also realized as a young child, I was maybe rooting for something that I shouldn't have, which may not have been the best element there. But I do appreciate that they're kind of showing the idea of an angel as something not perfect, or just the concept of in this story, like we're dealing with very imperfect people, even from someone who should be perfect. There becomes these complications because he becomes very close knit with this family. So yeah.
Yes, sounds like a really great movie with like great messaging as well, from what you were saying, D. I'm definitely putting on my list, like Whitney Houston as well in the movie. I'm shocked.
Yeah.
Who directed it? Do you know?
Who directed it? Let me see.
Because I've got.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say, so saying it's on Disney Plus as well. So that's awesome.
Oh, that's right. Because I was like, I wasn't sure if I was right or not, but yeah, it's Penny Marshall is the director.
Oh, Penny Marshall. Okay.
Yeah, I've heard of it.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Have you ever seen The Bishop's Wife?
No. See, that's another one where at the time I didn't realize it was a remake.
Remake The Bishop's Wife back in like the 40s, maybe, or
right.
With Cary Grant playing the angel character.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I've never seen that one, Jason, but I know on Christmas Eve in the UK we're getting like a reissue at the cinema of The Bishop's Wife.
Yeah,
So
because they're English actors, I think, in that one. David Niven, Cary Grant.
oh, okay, yeah. Yeah, I've heard of it, but no, never seen it. Jason, have you seen Preacher's Wife?
I've never seen The Preacher's Wife, and I forgot about it until you mentioned it. I was like, oh yeah, I remember that movie coming out. I never caught it though, but yeah, interesting. It's
Yeah.
Christmas. Yeah, I can kind of see that though. It's been a while since I remember that coming out, but yeah, I can see that. That's definitely Christmas.
Yeah, I've definitely added some lists, like movies to my list here, and it's great that like Sophie is like as she's watching us live, she's saying like, look, it's on Disney Plus, so it's easy accessible.
Yeah.
Last Christmas is on BBC iPlayer for anyone in the UK as well, or Hulu as well for you guys in the States. So Jason, what's your number 7?
All right, my number 7. This is a movie nobody talks about, but absolutely loves it, and it is Daddy's Home 2. I have on Blu-ray.
Oh, okay.
And nobody ever mentions this movie, but it does. It's a Christmas movie because they get together for Christmas. The whole thing is the family's getting together for the family Christmas, and it's 2 different families. Because Will Ferrell's character marries the ex-wife or whatever of Mark Wahlberg's character, and they have kids together that Will Ferrell's the stepdad to, and so they're trying to figure out where do they spend Christmas at, because there's a 2 family dynamic, and of course it's a sequel to the first one, Daddy's Home, and this one I think is much better. I'm not a fan of Daddy's Home. I didn't really think it was that great, and so I was kind of surprised when this one came out, and I just absolutely was like blown away. Like, it's so funny. Like, this is like one of my favorite comedies, and part of it is because of as you see in the picture, Will Ferrell's dad played by John Lithgow, and then Mark Wahlberg's dad's played by Mel Gibson. Sorry, Mel Gibson. And the dynamic between the 4 is absolutely hilarious because it works so well because Will Ferrell can play the goofy, klutz character, and that's annoying, while Mark Wahlberg can play this very serious tough guy role, and the dynamic between the 2 is just great. I just think they really have a good comedy duo together, and then the 2 dads coming in that have kind of the same personalities is absolutely hilarious. And yeah, I don't know much more to say. It's just it's a really funny movie, and John Cena has a small part in it, and he's pretty funny coming in. And it's great moment where they're of course having all these different, anytime family gets together you fight, and so there's all this fighting that goes on, and then but it all comes back together at the end, and they're all snowed in a movie theater, and then they start singing this Christmas song. I don't know if you guys seen the movie. Yeah. What is it? Do they know it's Christmas time at all? I think, or what's that song?
I think I can't remember the song. I saw it in the cinema though.
Yeah, and so they sing this song. It's absolutely hilarious, and it's one that I think people need to. If you haven't seen it, I think it's worthwhile seeing. And it's definitely one of the funniest Christmas movies I think you'll see.
Yeah, so I remember seeing it in the cinema at the time. Was it 2018? 2017, 18 maybe?
2017.
Right, okay. Yeah, I remember seeing it in the cinema, and I think, like you, Jason, I think I liked it more than the first movie. Like John Lithgow's like relationship with like Will Ferrell in that movie's great, like so funny. And then Mel Gibson, like, and him and Mark Wahlberg as well,
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't seen it since, being honest with you. But it's cool that you got the Blu-ray off it though. Clearly you love it, like it that much. You got it on physical media.
I laughed so hard. Like when I saw this, I was like, this is one of the funniest movies I've ever seen. I don't know. I'm a big Will Ferrell fan. Will Ferrell's one of my favorite comedic actors out there, and so I have a lot of his movies.
Yeah, yeah, man. Yeah, I'm a fan of him as well. I haven't seen that new one, Spirited, by him though.
Oh, I haven't seen it either, but I've heard interesting things about it.
Same.
I don't think he's made very good ones lately. I feel like he's dropped off a little bit. Maybe I'm crazy, but his peak was like in the 2000s era.
Yeah.
He was just knocking it out of the park with every movie, I feel like. And I don't know, now he's getting older. Now he's like well into his 50s, and it's harder to play these goofy roles, I think, at his age, you know, these goofy lead actor roles, because now he's old enough to be almost like a grandpa or something, you know.
Yeah, like, so I'm a fan of him as well, and I would like to see him kind of go maybe like an Adam Sandler route, where, you know, like more like a serious role as he's getting there. Because as you said, you can only do like a comedy shtick for like so long at that age, unless you're making a comedy movie specifically for like, I don't know, like I can't remember what the movie was, but it was like a couple of years ago. It was about I think it was like a holiday with like 4 older men. It might have been I can't remember what the movie's called. I'll message you guys if I do. Okay. But at the time, it was a comedy movie based on like 4 men that go on holiday or something like that, like 4 older men. And like it's a comedy though, so like it makes sense why they were going on stupid, you know. I can't remember what it was, but it was a good movie from what I remember. Not Christmas though.
Okay.
I've had a complete mind blank, so sorry. Yeah, so Daddy's Home 2, good pictures, and a movie I haven't seen in a while. D was nodding his head along, so I'm assuming you've seen the movie, D.
I have, and I feel like it's been so long. It was interesting because I think that I don't think they actually have anything to do with each other, but it's interesting how they have Daddy's Home and the Bad Moms, and they both did a Christmas sequel. So I thought that was really interesting. But yeah, I remember Daddy's Home being really, really funny. And I feel like I can't remember. I feel like I might have seen the first one, but for whatever reason, my memory, and maybe because maybe because that came out sooner than the other one. But yeah, I remember having a really fun time with the sequel. I think the first one was probably okay, but I think like adding John Lithgow and Mel Gibson, which was also fun because I grew up watching both of them. I watched John Lithgow on Third Rock from the Sun. Mel Gibson I've watched in like almost everything, you know, in the 90s. So so it was a really fun experience. And now I got to go back and watch because I think some of it I've probably forgotten since then. But I remember having a fun time.
Yeah, same as you do. Like Jason, before you mentioned it, I forgot like John Cena was in that movie, so I'm gonna check it out. Funny thing you mentioned, D, about like Bad Moms, like the Christmas sequel, is so I remember when I went to see Daddy's Home 2, I remember being absolutely packed at the cinema and everyone was laughing. It was a good atmosphere. Then when I went to see Bad Moms Christmas, I think it was called, I can't remember what was like the title. It was me and like literally 2 women, and that was it. And I was sat at the back, like, and the first thing, like, what's this guy saying Bad Moms Christmas for?
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah, I just remember that experience, so thanks for bringing that up, D. So we've done number 7. We've got Sound Lads here. I've got a fever, and the only prescription is more cowbell.
Cowbell. Yeah.
We're done number 7, so we're down to our kind of final 6. I'm going to go first with number 6, and it's a movie that I've only seen within the last 2 weeks for a second time ever. And I covered this in a review, but in 2016, version of Mike, he hated this movie. I would have given it 1.5 star or less. I did not like it at all. And everyone was like, oh, this is a great movie. It's a classic. I just didn't get it. And the other week I sat down, I watched the movie, and I was like, wow, you know, I've been stupid this whole time. This is a great movie. And that is The Nightmare Before Christmas. Which I think, being honest with you guys, I think what really helped me kind of sell me on more on this movie was recently watching Wednesday, the series, and seeing more of like kind of like Tim Burton style, because he's a director. I've never seen much of his work previously.
Oh, wow.
I've seen a couple of, like, you know, I've seen like the original Batman movies, and seen Obviously Nightmare Before Christmas, and I don't think I've seen much else. Did he do Beetlejuice?
He did.
Okay,
That's
I've seen that
first
movie.
Maybe.
Okay, so I've seen that movie, but yeah, I just wasn't like, I don't know, I just haven't ever been a huge fan of them. And I think like after watching the movie and then researching, like, look, this is the dedication that went into it, and you know, like 12 movements is like 1 second of footage, and I was like, wow, you know, this is an hour and 15, 20 minutes or whatever. Yeah, you know, just great movie, like great, like kind of like dark vibes to it, but then also when Jack Skellington goes to Christmas Town, he's like, wow, what's this? And he wants to bring that over to kind of like his Halloween town and stuff. Yeah, I was just really fascinated with the movie, and it grabbed me straight away. It's definitely one I'm going to revisit, and one where a rewatch really benefited me, you know. So that's my number 6. We got Soph saying she couldn't click with Nightmare Before Christmas. Yeah, again, like,
a lot as I get older.
I'm thinking national broadcasting. I missed that. Nightmare Before Christmas, NBC.
Yeah.
Glad about that because I was confused. Like NBC.
Yeah, I can't remember because I was talking about it, but yeah, I would have got like NBC as well. Like, really?
Like I don't have anything against the channel NBC, but okay.
So Nightmare Before Christmas is my number 6. D, what have you got for number 6?
So we are circling back around, and so I said this one may or may not be on my list, and it is just not in the way that you guys may have thought it would have been. So I'm gonna have to go with Home Alone 2: Lost in New York from '92. So here's a little hot take here. I feel like, and maybe it's because of my age, although I feel like the first film is great, for some reason, I have formed a massive attachment to the second Home Alone since I was very young, and that has kind of replaced the first one for me. In a sense, I need to go back and watch the first one, but I feel like for so long that's kind of been the superior film, and I guess just the film. Well, let me not say superior, but to me, when I think of Home Alone, I think that was my quintessential Home Alone experience. And I guess because it kind of expands beyond the house, and it's this idea of a young kid literally. And it's interesting because when I was young, the idea of getting lost was scary. But the fact that he kind of finagles his way into this, I think it might have been the Four Seasons or the Ritz Carlton. And he, you know, gets this massive suite, and he's ordering all this room service, and you know, he's watching TV. Like, it was like the dream to me. I was like, whoa, like I just loved it. And then him doing all the sightseeing, and I think that was my earliest awareness of New York as a city. I think that was, you know, because you know, Chicago, you know, that's home, but that was my first kind of like, oh, this is what like New York looks like. This is what it is. And I just like the way they expand the idea of that. I love, oh my gosh, I think it was, I don't know if it was E.O. Schwartz or A.O. Schwartz, but that massive toy store, I thought that was really cool.
Oh,
yeah, that toy store was like, so you have to imagine from me at a very, like, this is like before 5 years old, like, I loved it so much. And I don't think I got it for Christmas, but I think one of my cousins got the little Talk Boy.
Oh, I wanted that so bad.
Yes, the little recorder thing. I thought that, you know, it was so, there are so many elements there that make it so fun. The pigeon lady at the very end. There's just a lot to me that the way they kind of expand on that idea and the story and all that, to me, I enjoy it, you know, so much. And I don't know, and just the kind of the reality of being a kid at that time, and just kind of the wonder of that. But also kind of the scary side too. You are just a kid, and when you get stuck in dire circumstances and your family's not around, you know, what it means then to, you know, because I think I was also aware of that other side as well. Once we get to a certain part of the movie, it's like, well, where's my, you know, family? So anyway, I love, like I said, not knocking Home Alone, the first Home Alone at all, but I think I have you know, for whatever reason, I got attached to the second one, and I love that film a lot.
Yeah, that's awesome, D. And to be honest, like one thing I can really appreciate about the second movie is the fact that like, Kevin, as you said, like he's in this city alone. And I think as we've all gotten older, and, you know, like maybe we've visited, a city or a state for the first time, and we feel maybe a bit lost and kind of caught up in everything going on. It's kind of like that same thing for him. At first, he's like, "Oh, this is great," and then towards the end, he's like, where's my family?" You know, as he said.
Right. Exactly.
One thing I would love about both movies is like the message of like not judging a book by its cover.
Yeah.
With the guy in obviously the first one, and about with his son story. And then the second one, of course, the pigeon lady as well. I mean, so seeing here, Me Too D, the second one wins for now, especially the brick throwing scene.
Oh, that's so brutal.
Yes, I love it. I really do.
What would that do to your head, getting hit by a brick from that far away? That would kill you.
Exactly.
Yeah,
but we can't have that element in a kids film. So
you get hit like 3 times with a brick.
It's just something magical about both those movies, where what they did in those movies you couldn't do now. Like I know a couple of years ago they did that Home Sweet Home Alone remake or whatever it was.
Yeah.
I have not seen it, but by D's face, it doesn't look good.
No. I couldn't bring myself. I just remember seeing the trailer, and then I just remember seeing, like, I think I saw maybe a reaction or two, or maybe some reviews, and I was like, yeah, this is just as bad. I think the issue is, and I don't know if it's just simply, and I'd probably have to watch it to see, which I don't know if I can bring myself to do that. But I wonder if it's one of those things where the film itself is just bad generally, or if it's because Home Alone is Macaulay Culkin, and it is those first 2 films. And I think if you just try to throw some other kid and keep trying to keep this going, it just doesn't work like that. He is Home Alone, and just you can't keep trying to make this work without him.
Yeah, Culkin was huge. I mean, he was a huge star at that time with the 2 Home Alone movies. And I mean, he was the biggest child star of that time period. He was perfect for those movies.
Yeah, he was in a lot of the time. Yeah, like he was in My Girl as well.
Yeah.
Richie Rich, which I personally really like that movie.
I loved Richie Rich. I was wondering if you were going to say it. Oh my gosh, that McDonald's in his house, I was dying. Loved it all.
Love that movie, D. Yeah, haven't seen it in a few years, but I love that movie from what I remember. But yeah, Home Alone 2, I think is a great pick, D. I think
good one.
I think it's a movie that I think gets overshadowed a lot with the first one.
Right.
And I will admit I'm probably one of those people. But yeah, don't watch the sequels after number 2 though. Maybe on my channel, Terrible Movie Collab Series might get into the sequels, but we'll see. I'll get Dion for Home Sweet Home Alone, I think. Just you guys wait. You don't know what's in store for you with that series. Just wait.
No, I can only
imagine. Jason, what have you got for number 6?
Number 6, got another classic, one that I grew up watching. That is White Christmas.
Oh, nice. Okay.
With Bing Crosby, Danny Kaye, Rosemary Clooney, and Vera Ellen as the main 4. I grew up, my mom loves this movie, so this was playing all the time Christmas time when I was growing up. And my mom was a pretty big fan of Bing Crosby growing up. Even though that's before her time, it's of course way before my time, but I always enjoyed this movie as a kid, and even as an adult, I watch it and I still absolutely love it. It's part of it, maybe it's for nostalgia reasons, because it's one of my favorites as a kid. But it's a musical where they Bing Crosby and Danny Kaye become like a musical duo, and then they meet these 2 sisters, and Danny Kaye is trying to set Bing Crosby up with the older sister, and they end up going to Vermont. They go to Vermont during Christmas time because the sisters got a they got a gig at a bed and breakfast, whatever kind of place, or whatever, an inn, I guess you say. And the person that owns the inn was the two guys' former commander in the army during World War II. Anyways, he retired and he runs this inn that's struggling. So then they kind of all get together to put on a show to help this former commander and his inn, and and so it's a musical. The music is absolutely fantastic. Of course, White Christmas, sung so wonderfully by Bing Crosby in the movie. But there's all kinds of songs about snow, 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 and then they put on this really amazing show at the end. It's absolutely incredible, and they get all these background dancers, and it's incredible costume. The costumes are just absolutely fantastic, and the dance numbers are really, really good. And I like musicals, so I really enjoyed all the musical numbers and the dancing, and it's done so wonderfully. And it's also very funny. Danny Kaye and Bing Crosby have such a great chemistry together, and I love Danny Kaye in the movie. If you don't know Danny Kaye, he's a really funny actor way back in the day. I really enjoy him in the movie as well. And yeah, of course, it's all about Christmas, and it starts snowing at the end because they want a white Christmas. And when they first get there, it's not snowing, so they're like, "Where's the snow?" And so that's great at the end when it starts snowing, and they're like, "All right, here's the white Christmas." And it's just a fantastic old classic musical movie. I enjoy, and like I said, dialogue's so good. A lot of whippy, back and forths, and I think it's one I recommend to everybody if you haven't seen it. You've maybe heard of it. You might think it's too old, but I think it still works today for me, in my opinion. And I have to say, I used to watch this as a kid, and I don't know if this actress played here. She's kind of the younger sister. And if you see her, I don't know, I can't see her back here, but Vera Ellen, she wears these outfits, and man, she has like the best legs I've ever seen. And I remember being, young and still going, I'm highly attracted to this woman, and that kind of helped me as a kid, as a little boy. I enjoyed the movie even more because I was like, I want to see this girl in these outfits because she's so good looking anyway. So
I love that. I love that.
I didn't expect that, but okay.
Yeah.
Oh man, she is so beautiful. Like, I recommend it just to see her and go, she is, oh man.
Yeah, it's a movie I've heard of a lot, and I think I was maybe talking to Jason about this backstage, about White Christmas and It's a Wonderful Life, two movies I've never seen. Yeah, White Christmas as well. Like, I'm a big fan of musicals, and I think like when you're saying, Jason, about like older movies and stuff, I definitely, as I've started getting older and stuff, like I've been starting to appreciate them more, and very recently on Jacob's channel where I talked about Miracle on 34th Street, the 47 and then the 94 version, the 47 version outshines that remake completely. So yeah, it's on my list, and from what you were saying, yeah, definitely want to see it. Even if it's the woman's very nice and that's great, I want to see the story as well.
It's an added bonus, I guess.
Right. Yeah, so we're saying she's not expecting that either, Jason.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a guy and I like girls, and there you have these moments when you're for me, you have these moments when growing up where you just go, huh, I really like that. You just kind of get this light bulb kind of goes above your head, and you go, huh, I really like women. I don't know, and that's one of those moments as a kid.
Oh, I understand. That is part of the developmental process as well.
Right.
Right.
Understand. That's why I was laughing, because I'm like, yeah, I totally remember that as well. Yeah.
I think all guys kind of get that point. I'm guessing at some point.
100%.
I don't know.
Yeah. I think for me personally, I know it's a bit off topic, but for me it was like Kelly Kapowski and like Saved by the Bell.
Yes.
I was like, wow, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we've also got AJ. I'm very quickly saying, hey, Jen. So, hey,
Hey.
He's saying it's Looney Tunes humor in Home Alone.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've got Danny said, this is my life, saying, hey, folks, hope you're all okay. Yeah. Hey. Jason, Soul says, Jason, you are so pure and innocent to me now. I'm not so sure.
Oh, I'm a guy inside, so there's some dirt there somewhere.
We all have those moments, Jason. Don't worry. But yeah, man, White Christmas for me is definitely on the list. D, have you seen White Christmas?
I have not, but I know the imagery. Like when I see all four of the characters and the women in like the red kind of like glittery, sparkly dresses and everything. And I was gonna say, but I'm interested in seeing it because I'm definitely an old school classic Hollywood film lover, and with what Jason was saying about like the choreography and the dance numbers, I just think old school Hollywood, the aesthetics and the choreography and just the way that they would really like go ham with the designs and just the way they would craft the musical numbers and things like that. I don't think anything kind of lives up to that. We have some good ones, now, but I just think that was a whole different world, and just the way that they would just pour so much money and so much time and effort. I definitely always appreciate those.
Yeah, I know you're a massive fan of that kind of time, D, so I was thinking straight away. Like, I thought you might have seen that one, but that's fair. Yeah. So we've got Danny saying, Miracle on 30th Street is my favourite, not the remake.
Yeah.
We'll get into that.
Yeah.
So a good pick by Jason for number 6 for White Christmas. Number 5 for me is the one that we've already spoke about. Well, D specifically spoke about a lot, and that's Krampus.
Krampus.
I really enjoyed this movie. I think it was one of the first horror Christmas movies I ever saw.
Right.
I remember seeing this in the cinema. I can't remember if I was by myself when I went to see this. I can't remember. It was a long time ago. I remember going to the cinema. Again, seeing the trailers, I was like, "Oh wow, okay, this looks different." And it was different when I walked out of that movie.
Is it a gruesome movie or?
I wouldn't say gruesome necessarily. They have some kind of like kind of moments, but nothing like blood and gory like that.
I think it tends to cut away, doesn't it, Dave, from what I remember?
Yeah, there was nothing where like you see stuff splattering or anything like that. A lot of it is more so implied stuff.
Not like the Terrifier or something.
Oh no. Terrifier makes this look like a PG.
Jason, I think it, like as Dee said, it's more implied, or like I say, like it cuts away when it's about tap and something like that. I just remember it being a really fun movie. Definitely want to revisit it this year. I can't really say much more because Dee summed it up really well. So I was like, I can't really throw anything in here. I'm just going to stick with Krampus number 5.
I was also just going to say, I also love, now that you've mentioned it again, I love the fact that so much of the effects, with the exception of the gingerbread men, I love that so much of the effects and the creatures and the designs were practical. Like the whole Jack in the Box and all that. Like, I love that they literally crafted, and even Krampus. I love the fact that they like crafted all of this and it wasn't CGI heavy, save for maybe like a moment here or there. I love that.
Right. Yeah, and I think that's one of the things that like kind of makes these kind of movies memorable, because like Krampus still holds. I know Ryan from RWR Movie Reviews, who we all know. This was, I think, the first time he watched it this year, and he gave it 5 stars. He loved the movie. And like the practical effects, like for example, I know sorry, just quickly blocking this comment from one of those bots that we get. I know the practical effects hold up. So I recently watched Gremlins for the first time ever, and I was like, wow, this movie from like the 80s, like it still holds up, like they look so good. And for that reason alone, I'm saying with the practical effects and just loving attention paid to it. Krampus number 5. I'm gonna go to Jason this time with his number 5, and we're gonna go to D.
Number 5, one of the funniest Christmas movies, and it's National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation.
Okay.
My favorite of the vacation movies with Chevy Chase and the Beverly D'Angelo, the Griswolds. I don't know what to say. This is so funny. It's such a funny look at, again, getting together with family during the Christmas, and the family is very dysfunctional. People don't like each other. And so many crazy things happen throughout the movie. So much. I love Cousin Eddie. He's always been my favorite, played by Quaid, Randy Quaid, I think. Yeah. I love that he's this crazy. Him and his wife and the kids, and they're from Kansas, which I'm from Kansas. So I don't know if that's saying people from Kansas are that way. They're not all like Cousin Eddie, I can say, but I don't know. But I think they think Kansas were all a bunch of hicks or something. I don't know, but but he's absolutely hilarious. And I also like the fact that Chevy Chase's character Clark, he's trying very hard to have this great Christmas with the family. It's very important to him. And so I think he's a very genuine character. Actually, really like that he really wants this, great family experience with all the family coming together and having this moment anyways. And everything just goes wrong throughout the whole thing, of course, which is funny. And it ends with not getting the bonus from his boss, which really, he goes off the deep end at that point. And, and all that happens there. But he's overall a good person, I think. And I like that about the character. He's not the smartest guy. He definitely makes a lot of mistakes. I would say like my favorite part of the whole thing is him putting those Christmas lights on the roof. And I mean, I've never put Christmas lights on a roof. But I think if you just to get on a roof and put maybe just like a simple, like, Christmas lights, going around the, the border or whatever, I don't know what you want to call it. That still would probably take you a little while just to do that. This guy goes back and forth up and down the roof. That would take you weeks, I think, to do. I don't know. I'm not an expert, but I'm like, that would take you absolutely forever to put that many lights on a house. I mean, he way overdoes it, and that just makes me laugh so hard just watching him. And then the whole trying to put together and the lights don't come on, and then when he finally puts the plug in together and the light is like a beacon of light. It's just the whole town electricity like shuts off because it's taking in too much electricity. And that scene I've seen it so many times, and it's one of those scenes where I'm watching the movie, I have to stop what I'm doing because I'm like, I have to watch this scene because this is so funny. And they're playing the Hallelujah chorus, and he's so excited. And I don't know, something about the idea that there's just way too many lights on that. I mean, people put a lot of lights on, but man, that's just absolutely insane how many lights he puts on that house. And I was like, yeah, that would be terrible to put together, and the electric bill would be crazy, I think. And I wouldn't recommend it, but I don't know, that part just gets me every time I watch it, and the excitement on his face that he got this thing to go. I don't know if did they do that in England as much, or is that an American thing, or?
No, so I mean, like you'll get maybe like, say if you drive around the house in the States, you might get like the one house that's like really lit up,
Yeah.
And the rest of the street's just nothing.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, what were you saying, Dave?
Oh no, I was gonna say, I can't speak for the homes or the residences, but I must say that London had quite the display when I was out in the city and being there, because when the last time I was there for Christmas and the holiday, and oh man, like the lights and the visuals and that whole experience was really great. So you guys will definitely show up and show out with the lights where it counts. Maybe not so much on the outskirts or at homes, but definitely in the city.
Yeah, I agree.
Because I don't know if it's an American thing to overdo things. I feel like that's an American kind of thing, just overdoing it. I don't know if they overdo it in England as much, but
nah. So like what Dee was saying, I completely agree with. So like London, for example, will go all out with like a big light festival, or like make it really stand out. Whereas here you tend to find like it's like the city centers of different towns, where like every Christmas they'll be like, oh right, we're doing the light switch on at Durham, we're doing it at Newcastle, we're doing it at Sunderland and London and Leeds and stuff like that. But not like, say if I was driving around now in like the little village where I live in, you'd maybe say like one house where they go all out with lights, and that's kind of it.
Right.
And then everywhere else is not really. Whereas you guys in America would probably go all out,
Yeah, I get that feeling.
Yeah, and I was gonna say it's probably one of those things, and I'm not speaking for everyone because it's not the same everywhere. But I do think, especially like with the Griswolds and kind of capitalism and money, and especially like
Right.
the 80s and stuff like that, it definitely is representing kind of the American dream and the quintessential family picture. Like this is the, this is the life. This is the Christmas experience. So it's like the more lights, the more you can kind of showcase, like we built a great life and we love Christmas, and like we're kind of the quintessential American family who are celebrating Christmas. So the more over the top, the better. Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder if it's more like an American experience, and if it's different for if you're not in America watching the movie and you're like, oh, those crazy Americans or something. I don't know.
I don't know. I think it's a bit different because, as I say, like in England, we don't have that. So it's like with Halloween, for example. Obviously, I was in Florida in September time. Got to meet Dee in person, and like you guys for like say just even Universal Studios, like the Halloween Horror Nights, like that is something that we would like never have here. Like that, like you'd have like attractions that do like scare mazes and stuff, but not like a theme park fully decked out with Halloween aesthetics and scare zones and mazes and all these different foods. Like you just wouldn't get that here.
Right.
So when you guys do that for Christmas movies, and as you're saying, Jason, with this display with the Christmas Vacation, I've not seen the movie, but I've seen like Deck the Halls where they do like a big display at the end. I think like it's kind of something that we can only kind of dream of, like, oh wow, okay, you guys are nuts, but it's great.
Yeah.
So I guess it's that experience. I can't speak for the whole of the UK, but at least in my 32 years, I've never seen anything like that,
Okay.
So yeah, I think it's
I'm relying on you for the whole country.
right.
Right.
I think especially like at least here in the UK now, like the energy bills and stuff are like crazy prices. So you're gonna see like less houses do that now, but especially this year anyway. Very quickly, we've got This Is My Life saying, I love your background, D. Looks very retro.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, this was inspired by, I believe it's, I want to say it's a theater in Germany. I have to find what the name of it was, but yeah, that was the. I remember I saw it years ago, and I just never got that out of my head. And so when I was putting this channel together, I didn't even think I would be doing green screen. I didn't start off doing that, but I was just like, I really love. And actually, this is not even the original color. I actually changed the color because I love blue. But yeah, I think the original color is more like maybe like a aquamarine or something like that. So yeah, but that theater has different colors in different theaters, so it's pretty cool.
That's awesome. The thing is though, like the green screen looks so good. Like because like some green screen you can kind of see like your hands or something, like blending into it and stuff.
Right.
It just looks awesome. I've always found that I'm like, wow, it's a really cool background.
Oh, thank you.
And obviously, This Is My Life. Danny agrees as well. But yeah, good pick, Jason, with number 5. Movie I've not seen, but obviously won the Instagram poll, so I'll be seeing it this year. I'll make a review for it as well. D, what have you got for number 5?
Yes, I have to go with a film that just always is actually a very motivational film, and I think a lot of Christmas films, maybe not all the ones we've mentioned, but a lot of them are feel good. And some might be motivational in a sense. And to me, this is kind of like a really significant example of that. And that is Last Holiday from 2006, starring Queen Latifah.
The Queen Latifah.
And it's interesting because I didn't know this until it wasn't that long ago, but this is actually a remake of and I want to say, I don't know if it was might have been the 1950s, but it was a British film starring Alec Guinness in the title role.
Oh, okay.
And I think this was something they meant to do maybe sometime in the 90s. And they were going to have John Candy star, but he actually ended up, passing away, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But, then they ended up kind of over time retooling it. And then Queen Latifah, with Queen Latifah as the star. And it's basically a story about a woman who, lives a very kind of average kind of blah experience. She's very quiet. She's very withdrawn, and she doesn't have a real life, kind of social life. But she finds out that she's diagnosed with this really rare brain disorder, and so since she and it's traumatizing. But in that, she realizes, like, I've never actually done anything. I've never actually lived life, and now my life is about to be over. So because she's been very frugal and she's obviously budgeted and doesn't spend on anything, she has a whole lot of money that she's sitting on. So she decides, okay, if I have this much time left, then I'm going to go all out. So, she flies, I believe it's to the Czech Republic. She gets this suite, she gets a makeover. Like, she has this really, trying all these different foods. And part of her inspiration also is because she watches Emerald. And when she goes home, she practices all the different recipes. And this is not a film you should watch it when you're hungry or on an empty stomach, because those scenes, the food that they show, it's bananas. And I've never, and I not to say that I don't think I would cook from time to time, but that film really pushed me to want to cook and really push myself as far as culinary skills and all that, because it was insane. So those are some of the best shots of the entire film, but the whole film is beautiful. The hotel in the Czech Republic, everything. But what I also appreciate about it is that as she, of course, is this woman spending this money and living life, she starts to attract the attention of other people. Not all those people have good intentions, but then it has an influence on how other people live and how their outlook is. And they start to kind of well, shoot, what am I doing with my life if you're out here just enjoying yours? And it's something very significant to me about really pushing yourself to, I know we say live your best life, and that's kind of a common thing, but it literally is about the quality of life you want to have and choosing to have experiences and not just box yourself into what you're used to. And that has kind of been the hallmark of my life, even before I was old enough to really understand that. When I was very, very young, my mom, my grandmother, my grandmother traveled the world when she was younger. And there's just a lot that those experiences have kind of, the way it's kind of informed my own life. I think it's just a very, it's an awesome message. There's a point in the film where, where her character is, she's kind of at the, kind of coming to the end of her journey, and she's kind of speaking to herself in the mirror. And what she says to herself always gets to me, because she realizes that, she's kind of almost speaking to herself as if this is going to be her next life. Okay, so the next time, this is what we're going to do. And we're not going to be so afraid and so timid. And it definitely is something to really take away from that film, along with the aesthetics and what's beautiful style-wise about it. But the message of that is really powerful and very impactful. So I love that film.
Okay.
Yeah, it sounds like a very sweet movie. I've never seen it, but I've seen the poster quite a few times. Yeah, and I think what you're saying, Eddie, it sounds like a great message about just putting yourself out there, trying something new, or if you don't try it, you're never kind of gonna know, really. And it took to the point where she's getting diagnosis, as you said, a really big illness, to be oh, I've missed out on so much stuff.
Exactly.
That sounds awesome. Yeah, Jason, have you seen it?
No, I haven't seen it. I remember when it came out, but yeah, I haven't seen that one.
Yeah, I haven't seen it. And Sophie's saying it's on Netflix in the UK. So yeah, I'm writing some of these movies down as we're going as well, so I don't forget. So I've got a lot to catch up on. So no, yeah, great pick, D. I like Queen Latifah as well.
Yeah.
So definitely gonna check that out. So yeah, we're down to our final four now. So gonna go to Jason first. Jason, what have you got for number 4?
All right, got me. I consider this a modern Christmas classic. It's more, I wouldn't say real recent, but a little more recent. That is Elf with Will Ferrell.
Nice.
In fact, I'm trying to think, when did that come out? 2008, 2003? Was it
2003, I think.
2003? Okay, so it's been a little while now. But it's weird because I remember like yesterday that coming out. But it was really like first like big movie for Will Ferrell. I felt like taking the lead role after he did some more buddy comedies before, and now he's kind of the lead and playing Buddy the Elf. And like I said, Will Ferrell is one of my favorite. He is so hilarious, and I remember seeing this in the theater, of course, and it was a huge hit. And I think Will Ferrell just skyrocketed as one of the best A-list comedic actors. That everybody wanted to work with him, and he's done so many great comedies. And it's something funny about Will Ferrell because he does he can do a raunchy rated R comedy, and then he can do a really good funny kid comedy, kind of like this, or I say family comedy, where he's playing this kind of kid-like character, this naive guy who's 6'4" or whatever he is, and wearing this ridiculous outfit, and somehow he just makes it so funny. And I don't know what it is. Will Ferrell just knows how to be funny. I don't know. Like, I always think like he can yell and be funny, and he can whisper and be funny. And it somehow, I don't know how he knows. I always think he must just work a scene, and he just knows, oh, if I whisper in the scene, it'll be funnier. And it is. And I'm like, I don't know how he does it. Like, he just knows exactly how to be funny in every scene. And yeah, it's just a great Christmas comedy, one of the best, of course, at number 4 for me. One of the funniest movies, one of my favorite Will Ferrell movies, in fact. When I first watched it, I wasn't like a huge fan, but I think every Christmas I've been watching it, and every time I watch it, I love this movie even more, and I laugh so hard because it is really stupid. Like, there's some things that happen that I'm like, that is really stupid, but I absolutely love it. Like, I always think like he hears it's the first movie I ever saw Zooey Deschanel in as well. She's she's a little bit younger here, I would say, and I liked her a lot. And there's a scene where she's singing in the shower, and he goes into the shower room and starts singing along, and I'm thinking he should be going to jail for and yet they just kind of brush it off. And they like, I'm thinking, if you're a girl and you're in the shower room and a guy's in there, the shower room singing, wouldn't you like call the police? And you wouldn't start a relationship with the guy. So there's some unrealistic things, I guess I could say. It's very unrealistic, but man, it is so funny. And you got James Caan, and I think Mary Steenburgen also in here. Peter Dinklage has one of the funniest. Probably the funniest scene ever is Peter Dinklage coming in and him calling him a dwarf or whatever. And Peter Dinklage is this kid author who's the biggest jerk you've ever met, he's like, he says things like, "Hey, I've got more tail than you have the whole," and I'm like, this is horrible what he's saying. Like, and he's like, call me elf one more time, and you're an elf. And then he goes and attacks him, and it ends with, he must be from the South Pole or something. The scene is one of the funniest scenes ever. But there's so many absolutely hilarious scenes throughout. And I still, part gets me every time is him coming to New York for the first time and seeing a coffee shop that says "World's Greatest Coffee," and he thinks they actually are the world's greatest coffee. Like, he doesn't know that's just a marketing, thing. And so he thinks they won like an award, like for greatest coffee. And so he rushes in and goes, "Congratulations!" I'm like, that gets me every time. I can go on and on. It's just absolute delight of a movie, anyways.
Yeah, no, man, great pick for number 4. It's on my list as well, so I'll get more when I get to it. But yeah, definitely a movie that I watched more as like a kid, and like growing up as like a teenager, I started to watch more of, and I've seen it like multiple times. Here in the UK, actually, this December, Buddy the Elf's actually in a Christmas advert with Asda, like a supermarket here.
Okay.
I don't know if you guys have seen or heard about that or not.
No.
So yeah, supermarket here called Asda, so ASDA.
Okay.
And basically what they've done is they've cropped like him out of a scene and say Elf.
Okay.
He's like, has like a green screen, but then you've got like a supermarket colleague like interacting with him kind of thing. And like he's going around Asda decorating it for Christmas and stuff like that. It's really cool actually. It's worth checking out on YouTube. Like less than 2 minutes long, I think. But yeah, awesome movie, Jason. That's all I'll say without going into too much. I'll get to it. Very quickly, we've got Adam saying, I saw Avatar Way of Water today. Absolutely loved it. Not a festive film, though. Yeah, not festive at all, but I'm glad you loved it, Adam. Right, D, what's your number 4?
So this is one that I think is a fun enough film, but it takes on a greater significance as I've gotten older. And I have to go with Jingle All the Way from 1996. We've already spoken on it. Just the hijinks, the hilarity of it all. I think I appreciate it because, Arnold Schwarzenegger has done, Terminator, Conan the Barbarian. He's done a lot of, intense action, thriller, suspense. Like he's done a lot of in-your-face, intense roles. And I actually like the fact that he made a family film. And so for me, being able to kind of see him in that sense, outside of just this scary, I'll be back, cyborg character and all these other, big hulking, kind of intimidating characters, I thought that was pretty fun. I also, I love Sinbad. I grew up on Sinbad, a different world. This film, First Kid. Sinbad is a great actor, great comedian. He's actually, prayers up for him because he had a stroke not that long ago. He's regaining his mobility.
Wow.
But I always have an appreciation and a love for people who, it's just something about those early experiences you have with actors who made you laugh or made you like appreciate certain films when you were young. And I think, especially Sinbad, but both of them, I appreciate them just in this film. For many reasons, and I think that it takes on another significance because at the core of it, the foolishness and hijinks and hilarity aside, it really is about, with Arnold Schwarzenegger's character and Sinbad's character, it's the fact that these fathers love their sons so much that they're willing to go through, whatever lengths possible, to go above and beyond just so that they can be happy and just so that they can have this great experience. And I think that stands out more to me than anything. And it's a very poignant thing because for me, not to shift the mood at all, but this was not long before I lost my own dad, which was not a positive experience, obviously. And I don't know, like and not to say, and I probably would have felt this way regardless. But I think you think about films that I don't know if we get so many films that are about dads kind of going above and beyond, for their sons and their children in that way. Not that, there might be some, but it's very specific. This focus is very specific here. And even the fact that at the beginning, he doesn't have enough time for him. And he's really trying to kind of like go above and beyond because he doesn't want to fracture their relationship because his job keeps him away and, he's kind of disappointed him. And so it's about like him really like, I want to be the best dad I can to my son. So it really is a beautiful thing. Like I said, it's funny, it's silly, it's hilarious. I could be wrong. I don't know if Peter Dinklage is in this film as one of the little Santas or not.
There's a little Santa in there. Yeah. There's a little Santa in there.
Yeah. Or maybe I think I'm one of the other.
I want to say Bernard Troy maybe was in it, but
yeah, I thought I remembered seeing them there. So if I screwed that up, then never mind. But yeah, there are a lot of like I said, I didn't really mean to rope that other part in there, but there are a lot of things I appreciate about it. It's fun, it's silly, it's over the top in so many ways, but I love that there is a narrative underneath that, of a dad and a son, and just like I said, going above and beyond, and just the stuff with the Turbo Man and the commercial, the commercial nature of Christmas. It's really impactful for me to look at, especially the older I get, and at this point in my life.
Yeah. No, that's awesome, D. And thanks for sharing like kind of the personal story as well to that. Yeah, and I can definitely see, like, you're right though. I think like there's not many movies focusing on like dads, I guess, and like to that extent as well. Like like got Man Cinema saying here, like saying it's turbo time.
Yeah.
Oh yes, I love it.
And he's saying, "Bye, buddy. I hope you find your dad." Thanks for doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, so I agree with you, D. Definitely just a fun movie, and like, yeah, you're right. Like Arnold was never really known for doing like a lot of kind of family friendly movies, I would say. So like this one, yeah, is like definitely different for him, and I think he tried to do a couple like, I think like Kindergarten Cop he tried to do, and that kind of stuff. But everyone always this one, whether you like it or you don't. Yeah, no, that's
Schwarzenegger's starting to get a little bit older and playing more of these dad roles, I think.
Yeah, I think like Schwarzenegger, like if he was in a movie now and it was kind of based on like a family dynamic, I think that would probably work pretty well.
Yeah, because now he's a grandfather.
Yeah, then just him just rehashing Terminator, like I think putting like a family movie, I think you do really well.
Yeah, I feel like he's obviously a huge guy and he does action movies very well. Obviously, he gets to a point where he gets old enough where he's not quite as big as he used to be, but he's still doing action movies. And I don't think they're quite as good as they were back in like the 80s was like his peak period. But
yeah, I agree, Jason. Yeah, I think it's the fact like he's still a built guy. He still does weights and stuff, but like I think it's because like of his age. It's like who's going to take him like serious? It's like a big action hero now,
right?
Whereas I think like if you played like the grandfather role in like a family movie, I think like you do really well in that.
Yeah.
I've got Man Cinema Reviews saying I love Elf and Group and Jingle All the Way. Great picks, guys. Yeah, absolutely. So it says Jack Frost was one of the first films I saw as a child.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, yes, that's
that too. Yeah.
Yeah. I thought about that one. I kind of avoided it because that one was a little bit more intense than Jingle All the Way, but that was another one that was very timely because then that was after the fact. And I'm like, oh, this is hitting home a little too much. But I do think it's also, but that is another one that kind of deals with the dynamics of a father and son, but then actually does deal, with the loss, which I think is very important, as tough as it is, to watch.
Yeah, definitely. I've only ever seen bits of that movie, to be honest. I've never seen loads of it, but yeah, some great picks for number 4, guys. We Jingle All the Way as well. I'm glad that's on our list, Steve.
I just remembered. No. Okay, so Peter, it wasn't Peter Dinklage that was in that film. I was thinking of what Jason said about Elf. No, it's the same one from Danny Woodburn is the one who shows up. Yeah. Okay. He's the one. You'll have to look him up, but that's who I'm thinking of. That's totally different. Okay.
Yeah, that scene with all the Santa Clauses, that's awesome in that movie.
Yes.
Big one is like The Big Show, I think, isn't it? Or
I think it was. Yeah.
Yeah. The huge one.
Yes, the super tall Jack.
The super big. Makes Arnold look small. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Absolutely.
Well, my number 4, and then we're on to our final 3. So yeah, we're getting through this pretty good. Number 4 for me, I think we mentioned it before. I think it was one of Jason's picks earlier on, and that's Miracle on 34th Street, the 47 one. I can't really add too much more to what Jason said already, but yeah, I only watched this for the first time like 2 weeks ago. It was a pleasant surprise. I'd never seen like this one or the remake. Definitely the 47 version I think is far superior. And just the whole trial about is Santa real? It's kind of hokey. It's crazy, but it's kind of funny as well because it's like the judge at the time. It's like, well, if you find them guilty, it just makes the news being like Santa's not real. Imagine how that's going to affect kids, watching the news.
Yeah, it's going to ruin your political career.
And I just think it's interesting, I think the court scene is definitely a highlight. It's very fun. Whereas I feel like the remake takes away a lot of that, and it's more serious, which makes sense. They can't do the same court trial and that, but it's not as fun. So yeah, really enjoyed the movie. It took me about maybe 20 minutes to get into, but once I did, I was kind of glued to it and just invested for the ride, really. So yeah, Miracle on 34th Street's my number 4.
Cool.
So I'm going to on to our final 3. So thank you to anyone who's watching live so far after the fact. I'm going to go to D.Movieman first with his number 3.
So my number 3 again ties into my appreciation of old school Hollywood and the type of films that we would see, particularly by MGM. They were kind of the leading studio in regards to this type of film. But I'm gonna have to go with Meet Me in St. Louis from 1944, starring Judy Garland.
Mm-hmm.
So Meet Me in St. Louis, it takes place in St. Louis, of course, in 1904, ahead of the World Fair. And it's kind of this very idyllic scene. It's a very, it's a tight-knit family. It is, just this very kind of carefree, just kind of happy-go-lucky life. And it's about what happens when, of course, all these different family members are kind of, progressing in life or just kind of growing and learning. Judy Garland's character in particular, there's a guy that, suddenly pops up in the picture and she's kind of falling for him. And, there's a lot that's going on with the characters at this point in their life. However, that is all threatened when the father announces that he kind of has he's gotten a new job and he has no choice but to move away. And the funny thing is the stakes are not high. There's nothing like that that's super dire in theory or, it's nothing super melodramatic, but because they have built they have this tight-knit community and they've built this life, it's the idea of that suddenly shattering and all these connections and all these things they've built up in this community, all that is suddenly going to be gone. And they now face, a very uncertain future and they don't know what that's going to look like. And there, of course, the most famous song, there's a song called the Charlie Song, and I'm a big musical person as well. I think we all 3 have that in common. But the most famous song, probably one of the most famous Christmas songs of all that, especially to have come from this era, is "Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas," and it's the song that Judy Garland's character sings to her sister. Because they realize this is kind of the end, like we've come to the end of the road. And this crazy part is the original lyrics were a lot darker and a lot sadder. There was a point where one of the lines said, "Have yourself a merry little Christmas because it may be your last." And when they brought that to Judy Garland, she was like, "I am not singing that to this little girl," and just completely obliterating her hope, So she was like, "Yeah, no, can we fix that, please?" So they actually listened to her and they adjusted the lyrics, but it still is a very kind of bittersweet, melancholy song. And it had real life parallels because, I want to say it was either World War I or the Second World War that had gone on. One of the wars that had kind of thrown society and the world, into a state of kind of confusion. And so the parallel there was that, hey, while we still have an opportunity, have a merry little Christmas because we don't know what the future holds. We don't know what life will look like. So take what you can from this moment and hold on to it, and then we'll make it through somehow. So there's a lot of poignant moments like that specifically that really stand out whenever I watch. And it's just like it's the hallmark of what made Judy Garland such a beautiful and talented actress. I've talked about how I've read her biography and just what her experience was making this film. And, unfortunately with MGM and a lot of the studios back then, there was a lot of not great behind the scenes situations, but it was the first time with the director, Vincent Minnelli, who, if you know who Liza Minnelli is, that's
Yep.
later on and had her daughter Liza with. But Vincent Minnelli, that was the first time she said that she had ever looked at herself on camera and felt beautiful, because there was just a way that he captured her and saw her, and like presented her in front of the camera. She was like blown away, because unfortunately there was a lot that MGM behind the scenes did to kind of undermine her sense of self and the way she perceived it, like a lot of messed up stuff. So so just learning about just the filming and just how she felt on set, and what a great experience it was, that also kind of adds to just, I love my background stuff. So but yeah, it's a really it's just a very classic film for a reason, and that's the one that really stands out to me if I had to kind of pick something from that era.
Yeah, that I'll just write that down because I saw this on the list as well of like 100 movies to watch, and this was ranked pretty high. I've never seen, I've heard the title D, but like after hearing like the backstory, where like you explained it, it's like sounds really interesting. And that Merry Little Christmas changing the lines, definitely a great idea.
Yeah. I mean, I get that we're trying to kind of like, sometimes you want to deal with reality, but it kind of like goes against, like, I get what they were trying to do, but I'm like, yeah, like the idea of telling a child like, hey, this is it. I don't think that's great.
No.
I feel like it works for Krampus or something like that. Like Krampus could sing that song.
Right.
It'll be your last Christmas.
Right.
Now that would work. That would be quite funny.
Yeah.
Have you seen this movie, Jason?
I haven't seen it. I know it's like a classic old movie that I need to watch at some point. And it's been on my radar, but I just haven't got around to watching it. But yeah, I know it's like a classic kind of Christmas. Yeah.
Yeah, like a lot of these like older movies, when you guys talk about them on your channels or like this, like when we're doing a top 10, it's like I've like not very rarely I see like an older movie, but when I do, I'm like, wow, I'm really missing out, and I don't know why I don't watch more of them.
Yeah.
I guess it's like if they go as like a reshowing in the cinema and like say like a 4K or whatever, I'll be like, oh, I'll check this out for the first time. But yeah, like that one sounds awesome, D. I don't know a lot about Judy Garland personally, so I feel like I've learned a lot already just from you describing the movie and a bit about like the reading the biography and about MGM, because I know recently on my channel I watched a movie called She Said, which is talking a lot about like Miramax, and I was like, wow, I didn't even know that this went on Miramax, so to hear something went on at MGM. What's that?
It's been a problem for a while, the way they treat women.
Oh yeah, definitely. But it's just like I don't know. It's just like obviously a lot of it's kept under wraps, I guess.
Yeah.
Till a certain point. But like yeah, like just what Dee was saying about it. I mean, I kind of guess from like, don't get me wrong, I didn't take any bit of blonde was truth, because it wasn't.
Right.
But I can imagine some of that stuff.
Yeah.
Similar happened to Marilyn at the time.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So yeah, it's interesting to learn about it anyway. Not right, but it's interesting to learn. Like, oh wow, okay, that happened then. So yeah, no, that's a good pick. Oh, I've written that down. Me and C. Lewis, so I've got that for my list. Hopefully, it's on Disney Plus. I'm hoping on Netflix or something. My number 3 is Elf. I can't really dive too much into it because Jason's talked about it a lot. But yeah, I just remember watching this a lot growing up. Even now, I just think it's a great movie. I'm a huge fan of Zoe Deschanel as well. I wish she was in more movies. We don't see her a lot nowadays. I felt like she had like a peak, like she had this, and then she was in like Yes Man with Jim Carrey.
Yeah.
And she did like New Girl for a while, and like she kind of like did that, and then she's kind of, I don't know, just maybe took a break from acting and just like didn't want to do it anymore.
Really?
Well, I've not seen her anything in years. So
I can't think of when I've seen her. New Girl's basically the last thing I've seen her probably in.
Right.
And I just wish you'd do more. Yes, I'm a big fan of her. I think this is just a great movie. Like you can go back to it and watch this time again and still laugh at it. It's like Jason was saying, some great examples of funny moments. Yeah, sweet movie, and rest in peace, James Caan as well. I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So yeah, Elf's number
Yeah,
3.
Ed Asner as well. Yeah.
Yeah, Ed Asner. Yeah.
Passed away.
Yeah, I can't dive too much into it because just covered a lot. But yeah, Jason, what's your number 3?
My number 3 is a movie I just watched for the first time this last week, which is kind of surprising because my list usually are movies that I grew up on somewhat. And so I wasn't expecting this to be on my list, but it was a movie that I wanted to watch. It's on Netflix. It's an animation movie called Claws.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and it came out in 2019, and I kind of remember it coming out, and it got nominated for like best animated movie at the Oscars. And in fact, a lot of people thought it might win. Like it was like a very heavy kind of towards a heavy favorite, one of the best animated movies of the year. And so it was one that was on my radar, but for some reason I just never got around to it until just this last week. I was finally like, oh man, I really need to watch this movie, and it's Christmas time. So and I'm doing this Christmas list, so I'm like, I really should watch this movie in case it's like really good. And man, this movie just totally blew me away. I thought it might be good, but I wasn't exactly. I knew it was about Santa Claus. There was a story kind of about Santa Claus. The movie's called Claus. But I didn't really know a lot about the movie, and I think that really was great going into it. Just going, I had no idea where it was going or anything or what was coming. And so man, it was one of the best movie experiences I've had watching a movie at home. And it's an interesting movie. It's a very original, like I feel like original take at because I think it takes place like in Scandinavia or something. And it's this postman who goes to this Scandinavian town, I think, and it's like the most horrible town. Like there's this families that are fighting, like the Hatfields and McCoys or something, and everybody's miserable in this town. And he comes to this town to be the postman, but nobody writes letters in this town, so he has nothing to do, and he needs to have success because he wants to get out of the town. He doesn't want to stay in this town, but he needs people to write letters so he can. I guess his dad like is like, I don't know, the boss or something, and so he needs to be successful so his dad will get him back out of this town. Anyway, so he's in this town and he's trying to figure a way to get people to write letters. So he kind of comes up with this whole kind of Christmas thing and writing letters to Santa, and he'll give you, toys and stuff. And so that's how he gets the kids to write letters. And so he's trying to get all these kids to write letters so he can, so it looks like he's doing very well or whatever. And he meets this woodsman, this carpenter, who kind of looks like Santa Claus. And but he has this like very kind of tragic backstory. And you find out later in the movie, and he's very quiet, and you don't know what's going on. And so they kind of have this like kind of they kind of form this kind of relationship, this friendship, and they're totally opposites. Where this guy Claus is like this big guy that's very quiet, and the other guy is very more talkative and outgoing. And the postman is played by David Schwartzman, and Claus is played by J.K. Simmons. Anyway, and Schwartzman's absolutely hilarious. The character, I should say, the movie's a really funny movie. Schwartzman as the postman, I forget his name, but I call him the postman. He's absolutely hilarious through the whole movie. And the animation style is really cool. It's a 2D animation movie, which you don't see a lot of 2D animation. But they did something to where it looks really cool the way they shaded it. I don't know what you call it, but it has like a cool shade or something to it where I'm like, man, it's a really cool looking movie. I really love the whole design of it and everything. Anyways, and you see throughout the movie, like this miserable town starts because he's doing good. It's all about being nice to people, and I love movies about being nice to people. And it's a movie about being nice to somebody, and then that kind of becomes contagious, and that person starts to be nice to other people, and then they start being nice, and all of a sudden it goes from this miserable town to the people actually starting to be nice to each other. And it's kind of a new thing that they haven't done before. And so I love how it just totally changes this whole town, and just that he's in, and also changes the Claus character, who has kind of this tragic backstory, kind of a sad, I say tragic, sad, kind of a sad, tragic backstory. And it's very emotional. There's a point in the movie where he gets into his backstory, and I'm sitting at home crying over this movie. And like I was expecting to cry, but I'm like watching and I'm getting like emotionally involved in these characters. And I always say, if I cry, that means it's a good movie because it got to me,
Right.
which happens every once in a while. Anyways, and so the whole story of that just really got to me. And the music is really, really good. There's a song that happens in the movie that's absolutely beautiful, where he gives a sled to this little girl, and her dad is like pulling her on the sled. And there's a song going on, I think called like Invisible or something, I forget. And it's like such a beautiful song. And again, it gets me so emotional. I'm like, oh my God. And anyways, and so it's this movie. It's absolutely fantastic. It's number 3 on my list. It's one of the best movies like I've ever seen. Like I'm like so in love with this movie.
Wow.
Like I want to say, like if you have a Netflix account, like drop what you're doing right now and like watch this movie. It's just one of the greatest experiences I've had recently. Watching a movie for the first time and just being totally like, wow, this is way better than I ever expected it to be. And funny, emotional, heartwarming, everything great about Christmas.
Yeah, awesome, man. It's a movie I've never heard of.
It's a big, well-known movie, I don't think.
No, so when you were talking and explained it, I've got my laptop loaded up here and I was just Googling it. I've never heard of it. When you talk about The Postman, I know I can't remember the name of the movie, but I know there's a movie that's got like a similar premise to an extent with a postman and not getting letters, or that's what he needs to keep his job going.
Oh, yeah?
And I thought, maybe this is the movie close, but it's not. But no, man, yeah, that sounds awesome though. Have you seen this one, D?
I have not, but I remember when it was being promoted, and it's I don't know how long it was in theaters, or if it was one that just kind of like skipped me when it came out. But yeah, I remember thinking it looked really, really interesting. Yeah, so I'm glad to hear that it is.
Yeah, I highly recommend it to anybody.
Yeah, it sounds awesome, Jason. And it says here as well. I think it's like a Spanish American animation. I think it said. Yeah, animated Christmas, Spanish American animated Christmas movie. Yeah.
Yeah, the director has a kind of a Spanish looking name or Mexican looking name, so I don't know the director, but
yeah, I'm not sure, but yeah, man, I'm going to add that to my list as well. So it's on Netflix.
Yeah, it's on Netflix. So
right, awesome. Yeah, I'll check it out and I'll let you know when I've seen it. It sounds good though. We've got Danny saying I'm off now, guys, but pleasure. Enjoy the rest of the stream. So thanks for tuning in. So says fun fact is my dad's a postman.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
awesome.
like
and D, did you do your number 3?
Yeah, my number 3 was Meet Me in St. Louis.
Yeah.
St. Louis, yeah.
Cool. I thought so. I just wanted to check. All right, well, we're down to our final 2. Some really interesting picks. I don't think we've matched on any of our picks, so like we've all had the same movie for the one number. I don't think.
No, and I don't think the 3 of us have had a movie that we all agreed on. I mean, it wasn't on 3 lists yet, right?
I don't think so. No.
Yeah. So.
Well, I'm going to go with my number 2, and I don't know if you guys have seen this movie, if you've heard of it, or it'll even be on your list. So it came out in 2016, and it's a movie called Almost Christmas.
Oh,
Almost Christmas.
Yeah.
Have you seen this one, D?
I haven't seen it, but I know what it's like. I know what it's about. I know the. Oh, you know what? I'm sorry. I just realized I was thinking. Yes, I've seen this film. Wow. Oh yes, I have. I didn't. You said it, and I think I thought of another film. And yes, I have seen Almost Christmas.
Oh, awesome. Okay. Oh, Jason, have you seen it?
It does ring a bell. I'm kind of curious if you described it, maybe I'll recognize it.
All right, yeah. So it's got Danny Glover.
Danny Glover.
I'm not sure who else is in it. I'll have to look at the cast list. Is it Jesse T. Usher, maybe?
Yeah, it's him. Monique is in it. Kimberly Elise is in it. Carrie Hilson.
Right.
What's her name? Gabrielle Union. Is it like So another pretty star-studded one.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
So I mean, it's pretty much about like a family, like a big family, and Danny Glover's married to his wife, but his wife like passes away, and kind of like this close family kind of like becomes not so close, and he kind of wants to get them all back together and like have like one last kind of like Christmas together, and and this family time. But like all the different members of the family, like some of them don't get along, or some of them's got like I think Jesse Usher's character is like kind of like trying to be like a football star, but he gets injured and he's taking like these supplements, but no one knows that he's doing this to try aid recovery and stuff. So it's kind of like a broken family as such, like once a really tight knit family kind of broken, and Danny Glover's just trying to get them all back together, to have like one last like good Christmas at least. But at the same time, his wife used to make like a really famous pie in the family, and he's trying to master the same recipe that she made, but he's stressing himself out. He's causing a mess in the kitchen. He can never get this recipe. I think it's a pumpkin pie, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it was either pumpkin or sweet potato. Yeah.
It might be sweet potato actually. Yeah. And yeah, just a really sweet movie. I think it's a movie that's a little bit under the radar. I
never heard of it.
I mean, I'm not going to even say it's a masterpiece because it isn't a masterpiece, but it's a nice, like, sweet movie. Got some good comedy moments as well. I can't remember. I think it's Monique who's like really funny in the movie.
He is the star. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, she's fantastic in the movie. Yes. Her and Danny Glover. Danny Glover is great. Yes. So I'm going to go with that. So that's my number 2. I'm not going to say much more for Jason. If you've never seen the movie, you don't want to spoil it or anything for you, I'm
just going to say one thing. One word. Shotgun. That was one of the funniest parts of the film. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Okay. What Monique says in that scene, yeah.
Oh, Monique's fantastic in the movie, and
2016.
What's that?
You said 2016.
2016, yeah. Directed by David E. Talbot.
Yeah.
And let's have a look. And in terms of movies, he hasn't really done a lot before. He did a recent one, Justin. Jason, you might know of Jingle Jangle. I think Jacob Martin covered it.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
So he did that one recently, and he went on to do El Camino Christmas. I don't know what that is.
Christmas.
Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah, Almost Christmas is my number 2.
I remember Monique. She won an Oscar for a movie called Push by Sapphire or something like that.
Yeah, that's the book is based on. I think they changed the name.
Precious. Sorry. Mm-hmm. Precious.
Oh.
And I don't know if it was around that time Monique was in it, and she won an Oscar for Best Supporting Actress. And that's the first movie that's maybe the only movie I've seen her in, and she's like the most horriblest human being you'd ever see. So it'd be interesting to see her in a more lighthearted.
Ooh. And I agree, and it's interesting because for me, I grew up watching Monique. There's a sitcom called The Parkers, and it's a spinoff from another sitcom called Moesha. And so, both of those, it's particularly The Parkers, because it's about her and her daughter going to college together. But and Monique is a comedian. That like even before she was like an actress, she was a stand-up comedian. And so I'm used to seeing her, funny, over the top, silly, just always making me laugh. And so, Precious was a step in a different kind of turn. And even, I won't say what it is, but even she speaks about what she had to pull from in order to portray that character. And it was something. Once you understand it, then you understand how she was able to put forth the performance that she did, because it's very dark.
Very dark.
But yeah, and then she did if you've seen the film Bessie, about the life of Bessie Smith, she plays Ma Rainey in that film. She was really solid. So she's a really solid dramatic actress. So she's done comedic, she's done comedy, she's done, comedic performances and dramatic. She's really solid.
Oh wow, okay. Yeah, I think I've only ever seen her in Almost Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
Precious is on my list to watch as well.
Man. That's a hard one.
It is.
I've heard from everyone that's watched it that they're a big water bag by the end of it.
Yes. So I would say a prayer or two, or center yourself and just take some time, and then afterwards have some Disney movies or some sitcoms cranked up.
Yes, do something positive.
Yes.
Well, I'll do what I used to do when I watched a horror movie back when and get scared. I'd always put on SpongeBob SquarePants afterwards.
There we go.
Yeah.
Right. So Almost Christmas is my number 2. I'm going to go over to D. So D, what have you got for number 2?
My number 2 is a film that I believe probably has gotten, I won't say, I'll just say I think it's one of those films that, because it has gained a reputation over the years, I think when it is watched at a certain point in life, I think it's the reputation or the experience of it has kind of been diminished as years have gone on, and I get why. But for me, it was another one of those important films as far as my formative years, and that film is The Nightmare Before Christmas from 1993. I still have the VHS. My name is still written on it. I've had it for 29 years. And the thing about The Nightmare Before Christmas, and the reason I mentioned that, the reason why I mentioned that disclaimer is because I think that, because for me, watching that, again, this is a 5 years old and earlier type of film. So that's like, core early years. And so for me, I watched that film, not knowing anything about it. I didn't hear any people saying this is the best film ever, or knowing anything about Tim Burton or Henry Selick. I didn't know anything. So as an experience, it was my first experience with stop motion, a film that was kind of a little darker and twisted, because I think the Addams Family movies, and I want to say Batman Returns, like those were kind of my early kind of, this has a little edge to it that's not like family friendly, but I love it. And I think conceptually it's such a unique film, just even when you see that first shot of all the holiday doors, and to this day I still want to know, what does St. Patrick's land look like, what is Valentine's land, but I still want to know what those look like. But the fact that they have these worlds made up of holidays that we know and we grow up knowing about them in some sense, I just think it's just so cool, and the different characters, and even just kind of the core of just the story, because I would say a lot of it comes down to maybe dissatisfaction in the way we see our own lives, and then kind of looking at someone else's life, or looking at another culture in a sense, or another play, and thinking like, man, they have all of this, and I want to have this experience. But then and his motivations aren't bad, but we see that once he was like, hey, I'm going to bring joy to the world, he literally does the opposite, because that was not what he was put in place to do. And it has a lot to do with his personal dissatisfaction with his life, and just not really knowing how to deal with that. And I just think there's so much about it, even the small details that are interesting. Sally, I've always been disturbed and intrigued by the way she just falls apart and can just be put back together and sewn together. And her body can be broken and put back together. But I have to say, Oogie Boogie is the star of the film. His song, the visuals of it, I'm the boogeyman. Like, I love it. I love it so much. But anyway, my point being is that I think it's a special film, but I think it's one of those films that over the years, people talk so much about it that when people see it, and because, I think sometimes when we see things as we're young, there's a special connection that we have in a way that we may not have when we see them later on in life, because we have a more critical eye or a more kind of specific eye, and those things don't necessarily click with us. Not just because we're children, it's just as we get older, there's a certain way we perceive things differently. So for me, that's one of those that's always special conceptually. And even the director, because we know Tim Burton had his hand in it, but Henry Selick directed it. And to see him almost 3 decades later, he just came out with Wendell and Wild not that long ago, which I watched. He directed that film, and it's the same kind of stop motion style. Of course, it's evolved since then. So even to see kind of the evolution of that since then, and understanding all that goes into stop motion and the process and the time and the effort, I think it's just a really beautifully crafted film.
Yeah. Jason, have you seen the movie?
Yeah.
And do you like it? I don't know if I've ever asked you.
Oh, no, I don't like it.
Right.
I'm not a fan of Tim Burton or the dark kind of movies like that, I guess.
Yeah, his aesthetic is kind of polarizing, I've seen as I've gotten older. Because it's very specific, especially if you look at all his other films. So, yeah, I totally get it.
I want to say it's like the first stop-motion animation movie, maybe.
It's one of the first. It's definitely, if it's not the first one, it's definitely one of the first big mainstream ones.
Yeah, so it was very groundbreaking, I feel like, for the time.
Right.
It came out.
Yeah. Yeah, I was thinking that as well. I didn't know it was when the first stop motion ever is. When I watched it the other week, I was like, oh, this, maybe like for the time as well, 93. Yeah, I was going to say, D, I don't know if you've watched the film recently, but when I checked it out, it was on Disney Plus, and they've got it in like 4K. And wow, that looks awesome in 4K. Because I thought, with obviously the animation being older, I was like, looking like 4K now is going to look awful. But it actually, I think, solidified it even more, I guess,
Yeah.
And it's cool to hear that you still got the VHS tape, though, of it as well. That's awesome.
Oh, yeah. My whole, not even just Disney, but my whole kind of VHS animation and some live action children's collection, it's all still here.
Okay.
That's awesome, especially like VHS with like your name on and stuff like that. I remember those as well.
Oh yeah, because I think it was my grandmother specifically. My mom probably did it too, but my grandmother specifically was like, "This is yours. So if you take this anywhere else, you need to make sure it's clear that this is yours, and you need to bring it back." So yeah.
No, that's awesome, and it's cool indeed to hear like about your experience of it from like even then having the VHS tape to like now. And still how it's evolved through the years and how you've evolved like with that movie and stuff as well. Like that's awesome. So I've done number 2, D's done number 2, and Jason, what's your number 2? Don't think yet.
Number 2 is the Muppets Christmas Carol.
Oh yeah.
Oh, cool.
Big fan of the Muppets. Big fan of Christmas Carol. It's one of the best stories ever written. And there's so many different, obviously there's a million different, what do you call it?
Interpretations.
Of the movie over the years. And this is my favorite of all the versions. And I like a lot of the different versions of Christmas Carol because it's such a great story of redemption of a, character who's the worst character. And then seeing his backstory and given a second chance and realizing, to change his life, it's such a great story overall. And the whole idea of seeing his past, present, and future through the ghosts, of course, such a great idea. But obviously that combined with all the Muppet characters really make this a special movie to me. Because it adds that Muppet humor to it, of course, and I love all the characters in it, and also adds a lot of great songs. Like the songs are just fantastic in this movie. From Kermit singing, "One More Night Till Christmas" as he looks at the stars, and I love the Ghost of Christmas Present, the giant who's singing "It Feels Like Christmas." It's a really wonderful song. And then when you go to Bob Cratchit's house and Tiny Tim comes out, like Tiny Tim is the most sympathetic character ever created. And I cry every time I see Tiny Tim because I feel so bad for that, for him. And they do such a great job in this movie. I like, when he sings, the song, "God Bless Us All," I was like, tears are always running down my face because the story, because Tiny Tim, he's a little kid who has some kind of disease or something, and he's walking around with a little crutch, and he's such a cute kid. Even in Muppets, he's a little frog, but and he's so nice to everybody. And you think this is the one person that should be mad at the world and should be bitter. He's a kid that doesn't get to be a kid. but yet he's so kind to everybody, even if they don't deserve it. That his kindness is really what changes Scrooge's heart around. Like Scrooge, even after he sees the past, he's still still kind of a grudge or grouch. But then he sees Tiny Tim, and he just like it just breaks his heart. That it's like, man, this little kid doesn't deserve this, and and he wants to become better because he wants to help Tiny Tim. I feel like that really is the what do you call it, the thing that really turns the tables, I guess, for that character. And I absolutely love that part of the story. And I love Gonzo and Rizzo doing the narration basically throughout, and they're absolutely hilarious together. And it's like the first movie that really kind of combined those two characters, and they're just a great kind of buddy comedy duo. Um, Anyways, yeah, it's just a fantastic story, and I love Michael Caine. Michael Caine is just great as the Scrooge character, and he's such a great actor, and he does a good job here. And so, it's one of my favorite stories adapted for the Muppets, and it's just one of my favorite movies.
Yeah, man, that's an awesome pick. So my partner Emma, she loves the Muppets, and she loves the Muppets Christmas Carol as well. So she, if she's watching this, she'll probably nodding along with you, be like, "Yes, Jason, I'm glad someone said it." I've never seen the Muppets Christmas Carol, but it's cool to hear about like your experience with it though, and like as you mentioned, like Christmas carols, like got so many interpretations of it, and they're constantly making a new version
Every
of it.
year, I think there's a new one.
Yeah, but I think like doing it in perspective of like the Muppets sounds quite unique.
Yeah,
how to do that. So yeah, man, it's a cool pick. Definitely one I'm going to check out as well. I'm sure Emma will get me to check it out. So
yeah, I'm surprised she hasn't.
well, I think actually the other week she was watching it, to be honest, but I think I caught like the end of it, I think, and that was it. I know. So yeah, so anyone, so pretty much we're down to number one. So I just want to thank Jason and Dee for taking this time to do this list, and got one more movie to share with you guys, and I think we're all going to have like a different number one here. I think.
Who knows?
So I'm gonna just quickly say mine because it has been mentioned in the stream, and it's Home Alone.
Number one. All right, yeah.
Yeah, just because as a kid, again, it was one of those I watched all the time, every Christmas on in the household. Like, not really like a tradition, but like kind of like Christmas Eve or Christmas Day in our house would be like, right, Home Alone's going on. I was with my mum's the other day, Home Alone was on, and I was like, wow. And like, you learn something new about the movie every time you watch it. Like Kevin's flight ticket getting thrown in the bin. I didn't even know that happened. Because I've always wondered, like, how did they leave him alone? Like, did not have his ticket and stuff like that, It's just little detail. Or I don't know if you guys have ever watched a series on Netflix called The Movies That Made Us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I did a Home Alone episode in there.
Yeah.
And even that, I only watched for the first time like a couple of weeks ago, and I was like, wow, I did not know this about the movie. And like, in like a gymnasium, and they built up this set prop and stuff. It's just nuts, and yeah, as I said, great Macaulay Culkin movie, great Christmas movie. John Candy, absolute highlight of that movie.
Yeah.
And crazy that he did it for free as well, and the pizza boy got paid more than him.
Paid more.
Just like little facts like that. And John Hughes as well, fantastic director. So I can't really add much more than that than what we've already talked about. So yeah, Home Alone as mine.
Hughes wrote it, but Christopher Columbus directed it.
Yeah, John Hughes, story by John Hughes, Christopher Columbus directed. Yeah, but Christopher Columbus, again, another great director. Went on to do the first two Harry Potter movies. So, that's my number one. So I'm going to go to D next.
Okay.
Pause.
So this film is special to me for a lot of the reasons, and a lot of it comes from the lead performance here. I've loved it ever since it premiered in 2000. It is a VH1 original. I don't think VH1 does like original movies like that anymore, but they were for the longest time. And That is Diva's Christmas Carol, starring Vanessa L. Williams. And again, to kind of piggyback off of what Jason said about all the different adaptations we've gotten of A Christmas Carol, I love this one because this one, of course, is following kind of this pop diva who named Ebony Scrooge. And it's about, kind of how, temperamental and demanding she is. And of course, her perception of Christmas. I think one of the earliest scenes in the film. I don't know if I'm pretty sure. I don't know if you've seen it, Mike, but they'll have the Santas who are standing near kind of the coin jars who are doing like the charity, ho ho,
Yes.
Merry Christmas.
Yeah.
And she's just gotten out of the airport. She's walking, into the hotel. And so the Santa is like, oh, ho ho ho, Merry Christmas. She's like, save it for the suckers, Grandpa. And then she goes into her hotel. And I think a lot of, like I said, moments like that and throughout, I think Vanessa Williams is just like hilarious in this film. And then, we have Kathy Griffin as one of the ghosts of Christmas. I won't say which one, but a lot of it is just kind of the writing and the dialogue and the silliness of it all. I remember it cracked me up really badly, and it still does to this day. There's even a point where the Bob Cratchit of the story is telling her why she doesn't reach out to her family. She's like, I have my own reasons. He's like, well, yeah, well, what reasons could they be? And she's like, because family is an accident of birth. And he's just like, okay. And then he just moves on. So she says some really, like the stuff she has to say, like some of it is really foul, some of it is really funny, some of it is a little bit of both. But it's a really interesting kind of subverting what you kind of have seen when it comes to that story. A lot of it, of course, is the bones of it is still there. But it's interesting how they kind of flip some things, like the Ghost of Christmas Future. They do something very specific to the time, and I won't say what that is, but it's very much of its time if you see it. And it's always funny to me to see that. And of course, as we get into her experiences, it does we get, and it's of course different from the original story, but we get more into what has shaped her, and like what her experience with music was before she became this, solo star. Who was she before that? They have some really great, or I think is it maybe just one? Yeah, they have two really great original songs. One is kind of made to reflect the 80s. And I meant to say also, Vanessa L. Williams is someone I've grown up with. Again, formative years. I want to say she was a singer before she was like an actress. Yeah, and so Dreamin' is one of my favorite songs of hers. And then I also, of course, have fond memories because she sang her version of the cover of Colors of the Wind from Pocahontas. Which I obviously love, and there are so many other songs. So it's funny how the music here kind of reflects her own career in a sense. So it's interesting how they do that as well. And as a TLC fan growing up, we also have Chili in this from that group as the Marley story. And even that scene is really funny because there's a point where Ebony doesn't believe that Marley is there and that she's real, and like, oh, well, you look normal. So how am I supposed to believe that you're a ghost if you look like you haven't aged a day? And she's like, well, and then she takes her face off, and all you see is her staring at her face, looking like she's about to throw up. So yeah, it's just one of those that thrives because of Vanessa L. Williams' performance. And it's funny because this is prior to her role on Ugly Betty, which is one of my all-time favorite shows, as Wilhelmina Slater, who is, the quintessential love to hate, hate to love villain on that show. So I enjoy it so much.
Yeah, that's an awesome pick, D. And I know like yours was a movie that you suggested for me to watch as well.
Okay.
It's one that I'd never heard of.
Yeah, I haven't heard of that one.
Yeah, it's very specific. I even have some people, I guess friends of mine, who I would have thought would have known about it, but it just seemed to again, like I said, maybe this is an age thing. I am up there in age, so this was 2000. So I think, you know, time has marched on, but I think it's one that everyone should see, because it's, to me, a lot of it is just the comedic nature of it. That's what makes it so fun.
Okay. Yeah, and to be honest, it sounds like a very interesting take on the Christmas Carol story. Like, you know, Diva's A Christmas Carol, and she's called Ebony Scrooge, you know?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, I don't know if that's available on like any like streaming or anything. Maybe not.
I'll have to check and see, because I remember at the time now, I ended up ordering the DVD, but I also saw where it was on YouTube and I saw it on like a website. So I can forward that to you once I find out where it is.
Yeah, please do. I'm sold as well, especially if it's like that early 2000s time.
Oh yeah.
Like, you can tell it's just going to be like a nostalgia kind of watch as well. So, yeah, send me it over, D. I'll check it out, and I'll let you know my thoughts. So, Jason, what would you say is your number one?
All right, it's a movie no one's mentioned, and I think it's a divisive movie somewhat. I some people don't like this movie, but I just absolutely love it, and that's How the Grinch Stole Christmas with Jim Carrey by Ron Howard. Came out, I think, around 2000, around that era, if I remember right.
Yeah.
So when you said 2000, I thought maybe you were going to talk about How the Grinch Stole Christmas. And then you said VH1, so I'm like, okay, never mind. That's not
right.
Movie. But yeah, I obviously it's a Dr. Seuss book. There's this classics clear Christmas special back in the 60s that everybody grew up on. And this was a live action make of that, theatrical, where they expanded the story beyond what's in the book. And I just hear so many people just don't like this movie. And I'm always shocked because I just absolutely love this movie. And everybody's like, oh, the 60s version is the only version. And I'm like, what? Like I disagree. This is not only one of my favorite Christmas movies, but one of my favorite movies, one of the funniest movies. I just die laughing. And I remember seeing the theater, and the theater was packed, and this was a huge hit. It was the biggest box office movie of that year. Jim Carrey was still kind of in his peak Jim Carrey. He kind of started faltering, I feel like, after this movie a little bit. Then later he really kind of disappeared. But this was still a period where Jim Carrey was one of the funniest people in the movies, and was just knocking it out of the park. And this is my favorite performance of his. He's over, of course, it's just a great character. He's got all that makeup on, that costume that looks so great. And I think he got nominated for like costuming maybe, and it got some Oscar nominations, I know, out of it. And but you still see Jim Carrey, even though he's covered, you can't see him. It's still his mannerisms and his physical comedy comes out. And Jim Carrey, to me, is like one of the greatest physical comedians, I think, of all time. And he still knocks it out of the park with like Sonic the Hedgehog 2. I mean, he's just so good. And it's a great story. It's, again, kind of like the Christmas Carol. It's about a person who's kind of not good, who then changes his heart and hates Christmas. But then throughout the movie, the kindness of strangers kind of turns him, mainly Cindy Lou, who everybody's mean to the Grinch, of course, and everybody hates him except for this little girl, Cindy Lou, who is nice to him and nobody else is. And I think that changes him to like, wow, like this innocent little girl, like is, being kind to me and is trying to help me and all this stuff. And it kind of changes him to then turn around to being kind of like Scrooge, being, going from the meanest to one of the nicest and loving Christmas at the end. And so I love the whole character arc of the character. And I think it's done very well here. But what really makes it is just, it's absolutely hilarious. The whole backstory of him as a baby, growing up, all that stuff is, I really enjoy that whole backstory they added into there. And it kind of explains why he hates Christmas, which the original I don't think really does. But I think they do a good job of kind of painting that picture. Like, yeah, I get why he hates Christmas. And I don't know, they just add so many things in there. I don't know how much is improvised, but I almost feel like Jim Carrey must have improvised scenes and came up with some funny ideas with Ron Howard and all that. And it's a really good cast with I I'm trying to remember some of the other actors. Jim Tambor, I think, plays the mayor, who's just a real jerk. And Ron Howard's brother, Clint Howard's like his assistant there. Molly Shannon is in it. But yeah, and all I can say is like my favorite part is when they have the cheers, and he shows up in that Christmas sweater. They put a Christmas sweater on him, and he's trying to. He gets awarded like the chairmaster or something, and so he shows up. You're not sure what's going to happen, and then they go through all these things of like, all right, now you're going to have the pudding contest, and they're shoving pudding down him, and he's like. First he's like, no, and he's like, and then later on he's like, bring it on, like it's just absolutely hilarious performance. And he does like a race, what do you call it, sack race, and he's pushing kids over, and they have the slow motion him going over. I mean, it's just so funny, the whole sequence. And all of a sudden he's enjoying it because everybody's paying attention, and he's winning, and he's all this stuff. And then it turns sour when the mayor proposes to the girl that he likes. And then he goes off the deep end, and then he burns the tree down, and it's chaos. And you got this, and he's running, and he gets into this little car, and he's going down with this like little person's car. I mean, not just a little person's, like a really, really, really tiny person car. And it crashes. And he goes, it's going to blow. And then all of a sudden comes this action sequence with him running in slow motion. And then the little car like explodes, and he's like, oh my gosh. Like I die laughing every time I watch the whole sequence. And it just puts it over the top for me. It's like just one of the funniest movies. I just can't stop laughing when I watch that movie. And it's a good story overall. It's a classic Dr. Seuss story. And I don't know, I'll never apologize for this movie. I think it's a great movie. It's up there for me. It's, number one Christmas movie for me is How the Grinch Stole Christmas.
Yeah, nice. I think I've seen, because did they recently do like an animated one maybe a couple years ago?
Yeah, they did. I saw that.
Grinch, yeah.
Yeah, I saw that one. Yeah. Have you seen How the Grinch Stole Christmas, D?
I've seen all three. I was going to ask you, Mike, what did you think of the most recent one?
The animated one?
Mm-hmm.
It was okay, but I haven't really thought about it since, so I guess forgettable.
Yeah, so it put me to sleep, and you know what that usually means. So yeah, like not bad, but I don't know. Maybe something was missing. Because, like I said, for me, I'm not someone who sleeps at the movie theater. So if that happens, assuming there are no external circumstances, then it usually doesn't reflect well on the movie. But I totally get. It's the original animated film from the '60s. It is very much a classic. I want to say Vincent Price is the narrator of that.
Karloff.
Oh, Boris Karloff. Excuse me. I must be thinking of something else. But yes, and I think that it's one of those things where people, it's because they have so much investment in this original property that it's difficult to accept this. Maybe. Even though it's his own thing, it's live action for a reason. But I think that's what happens. I think for whatever reason, there are some films that don't click with me, and sometimes it's because of how it's presented to me. So one that wasn't on my list, and I don't think any of us mentioned it on our list, but the Santa Claus. I never got into the Santa Claus. I probably could have, like if my mom or my dad or my grandmother had just showed it to me at home, I probably would have gotten into that. But at the daycare centers and the different places, like everyone wanted to show that film over and over again. I'm like, it kind of ruined it for me. So to this day, I've never gotten into the Santa Claus. And so the same thing kind of happened with the Grinch. I didn't really get to see it the way I should have. So it kind of ruined it for me a little bit. But I love the design, like the way they flesh that out and the way they like take the original animated concept and idea, and then like you see the costumes, you see his makeup and all that. Like that is phenomenal, and they did deserve Oscar nominations for that. I just need to go now that I'm kind of removed from it. I need to go and watch it at this age and be able to kind of appreciate it outside of it being shoved down my throat, because there are a lot of quality aspects of it.
Yeah, and I know it's a very well loved movie even now. But yeah, D, I think I agree with you. My only interpretation I've seen of it is the animated one personally.
Yeah.
And I think it's hard for an animation film to be very memorable nowadays. Especially. So I think that was only a couple of years ago, that movie.
Yeah.
And they've not thought of it since, so it wasn't that good. So yeah, I just want to thank Jason and D for being here and doing the stream, and that is our top 10 list of our favorite Christmas movies. So let us know in the comments if you have any of these movies on your list, if you agree with any, or you have your own that maybe we should all check out. I'll leave them down there. Just before we quickly sign off, I'm going to take it to each of my guests, Jason and D. And yeah, D, if you just want to go first and just plug your channel and what you've got coming up.
Well, per usual, hey everyone, this is D.Movieman, fellow cinephile, popcorn addict, and emerging film critic, coming to you with reliable recaps, reviews, and reactions. That is my go-to tagline. So if you click on the video, that is what you are going to hear. My channel is basically centered around the celebration of cinema in all its forms as a fellow cinephile, of course. And with my reviews, with my reactions, and the occasional recap, I really delve into what is special about the medium of cinema. And, and sometimes it gets a little personal, because I do recognize how it has impacted my life, how there are specific memories that are attached to certain films and so on and so forth. So if you are interested, if you just enjoy film and you just want to hear from someone who loves, delving a little deeper, or just, celebrating, loving, and just, having discourse over that medium and everything that comes with that, feel free to check me out. That is capital D period space Movieman. I just today dropped a review for Boy in the Corner, which is an indie film that was directed by Joshie Lee. It was a request. And some of what I talked about with my personal perspective, I definitely delved into some personal experiences there. And I'm also hoping to knock out a review for Glass Onion ahead of its release. Just saw Avatar, and since people requested it, I'm going to do kind of a quick wrap-up video to, kind of just touch on some of the films I've been able to see without having to kind of go video by video, because it would take forever. So feel free to check me out there. D.Movieman on Instagram, Letterboxd, Movieman D on Twitter, and yeah, let's get into it.
Sweet, yeah. So the link to D's channel is in the description box down below. Yeah, fantastic reviewer, D. And I always say this about you, but one of the best, and go very into detail on your thoughts. And I just feel like it makes it more personal every time you do review, and especially if you include a comedy sketch. I always love those. And yeah, really enjoyed your review on Boy in the Corner earlier as well. Great that you got this, and got a screen as well, from Joshie, who is worked with Oscar Wyman-Hyde, who we both know.
Right.
Past. So yeah, D. So thanks for being here, and yeah, the link to D's channel is in the description box. Please go check them out. And Jason, yeah, do you want to just tell everyone a little bit about your channel and what you've got coming up?
Yeah, I just want to point out, I think our stream is about as long as Avatar. So you can choose to watch Avatar or this stream, and I think the stream is probably better. But anyways, yeah, just the Old Millennial, where I cover movies and music. Do a lot of rankings. Been ranking my top favorite 100 favorite albums lately. Still going through that. Ranking every single Beatles song. Still going through that this last week. And today, I'll try to post what I've been watching. I try to post many reviews of movies I've been watching on streaming over the last week, and kind of give my thoughts on that, and do a lot of live streams and collaborations like this. I love to do a lot of that, like I said, and yeah, and be covering a lot of albums lately. I've been trying to get into more album reviews and stuff. I've been buying a lot of vinyl and all that, and I'm doing a live stream tomorrow on SoundLab Studios at 4:30 Central Standard Time, where we're ranking all 7 Creedence Clearwater Revival album. So
Whoa.
I got that going on tomorrow.
Awesome. Well, yeah, so the link to Jason's channel is also in the description box below. Yeah, covers a lot of like music and part of the vinyl community as well. So I expect to see a lot of that content on his channel, and he's got a lot of live streams as well that you do or you're a part of. So yeah, so please go check out Jason. Please go check out D. Links in the description box. And again, just thank you to Jason and D for doing this stream with me. I've had a blast. And finally got to see D's ugly Christmas sweater. So that was good.
His jumper.
Yeah.
And yeah, thank you to everyone who's watching live after fact. And until next time, we will see you later. So see you, everyone.